The Seged family's judgment ceremony involves revealing the children's mana purity and mana attribute to determine who is worthy of the family name of the strongest wind masters and aura users. The first boy approaches the joint stone sword, and the sword glows with green aura, indicating his wind attribute and higher than average mana purity. The next girl arrives, and the sword releases a blue aura, even better than before, leaving everyone overjoyed that the family has gained another prodigy. Finally, it's Rain's turn. The patriarch tells her to step forward. As soon as Rain touches the sword, it releases only a faint white aura, considered the weakest. The others burst into laughter, but the patriarch silences them and quickly ends the ceremony. When the hall is empty and only patriarch and his servant remain, the Zant sword suddenly glows again, this time with a blazing golden fire aura, the same power possessed by the founder of the Ziggurat family, capable of melting anything. Patriarch is stunned and wonders how powerful Rain can become. But even Patriarch doesn't know who Rain is. He's a reborn, strongest assassin betrayed by his own master. One cold night, the Shadow Group's best assassin meets his master, Darius Robert. The master learns that Rain has broken free from mind control and demands to know how he did it. House Robert turns kidnapped children into emotionless assassins, and Rain accidentally broke the mind lock during a mission. When Rain asks how Darius knew, Darius explains that every assassin has two suspects, Mind Shackle and another. Just then, a sharp pain erupts in Ryan's chest, and Darius reveals another shackle, a rage worm implanted inside Aces, capable of devouring hearts at the master's command. The worm begins to eat the heart, and Ryan vows that he won't die like a dog and will at least leave a mark on Darius. He picks himself up and charges, only to be instantly decapitated. Darius is still in shock, as Ryan has managed to wound him. He orders the remaining Aces to dispose of the dead body and he leaves. Rain's fading consciousness fills Rain as he remembers the life Darius took from him. With his last breath, he prays to a god or demon for a chance at revenge. Just then, the trinket around his neck begins to glitter, and a strange screen displays that he has been chosen by a being named Vrat. But before Vratin can descend, Rain's body dies, and the process is cut off. Sometime later, a young woman is playing with her child, whom she calls Sunshine. That child is Rain. He is reincarnated into the family of this woman, Sylvia. Ryan retains his memories of being an assassin. Initially, he thinks it's a dream, but gradually he accepts that this is a new life from which he can't wake up. In playful chat, Sylvia tells him that the Lord of the house hasn't yet come to give him a proper name, and she doesn't know that Ryan understands everything she says. Ryan wonders why the Lord hasn't come even after 100 days of his birth. It's clear to him that he was born into a rich and prestigious family, which is an advantage for his revenge. He hasn't left the building, so he doesn't know his status within the family. Furthermore, he hasn't mastered the flamingo technique, so revenge against Darius is still a long way off. Just then, the maid, Helen, arrives to inform him that the Lord has returned. Sylvia tries to get ready, but it's too late as the Lord enters through the main door. The man enters the room with a strong aura, and Ryan immediately recognizes him. Sylvia calls him father, meaning he's her grandfather. Looking at his features, Ryan confirms that it's none other than him. Glenn Sieghard is the apex of the Northern Lord of Destruction continent. Rain realizes he was born into the continent's most powerful family. Glenn names him Rain, the same name from his previous life, and tells him to live as if he doesn't exist. That night, Rain finally finds himself alone and cultivates flame links. Normal techniques inhale mana and store it in a core. However, flame links create circular links around the heart, increasing stamina, focus, and mana affinity, while remaining hidden from transcendent beings. All he needs to do is increase his strength and focus and learn the Sieghard sword's technique to make his revenge plan foolproof. But there's a problem. His new body's mana circuits are filled with destructive chill. About 9 circuits are blocked, and he could die soon. He must break them with flame links. He cultivates for a long time and finally collapses while fighting sleep. Luckily, he fell asleep because Lord Glenn enters the room and releases his aura on the sleeping child. The next morning, Rain is back with the baby. He begins his duties. He crawls a little more every day to impress his mother. He finds acting like an infant more painful and would prefer to endure destructive screams. A little while later, Sylvia receives a special visitor. A family friend whom Ryan recognizes. The Rajat Saint, whose divine power and medical knowledge are beyond all comprehension, is considered the continent's greatest healer. He says he heard Sylvia had a baby, so he came to check on her. He looks at the baby and says it looks just like Sylvia, and his grumpy grandfather is the complete opposite. When he hears that Glenn named the child Rain, which means shadow, he is angered and wonders why Glenn did this. Their informal tone confirms that they are old friends. After a health check, Saint tells Sylvia that the child has the curse of bitter frost. His mind circuits are blocked by the chill, and his chances of becoming a swordsman are slim. Without treatment, he will not live long. Sylvia is shocked and denies it. But Saint ignores it and says he'll bring medicine. The maid comes and tells him the Lord is calling him. Saint leaves the room. Ryan is relieved that he's found out the name of the condition. He starts thinking about how to handle it. Just then, a tear rolls down his face. He looks up. Sylvia is crying and says this can't be true. She says she won't let him die. For the first time, a strange pain arises in Ryan's heart. He realizes he feels bad because he doesn't want to see Sylvia cry. He extends his hand, wipes her tear, and, for the first time, he says, "Mama." This proves to be the final straw for Sylvia, and she ignores the maid's protests and enters the room where the Lord and Saint are talking. Her abrupt entry enrages the Lord. But Sylvia yields and pleads to spare her son Ryan's life. Her pleas continue for some time, but Lord Glenn coldly says that it is pointless to save a boy who cannot become a warrior and will be of no use to the family. When Sylvia reminds him that the boy is his grandson, Glenn sticks to his earlier statement. He orders the guards to drag him out. The guards drag him away, and Saint calls the Lord a stubborn fool. Saint later reveals that Glenn summoned him to the palace because he had noticed the same problem in the child. Glenn doesn't respond and tells him to continue his report. Saint explains that the boy's mana circuits are blocked, and that progressing in this condition would be dangerous. Glenn's aura had repelled some of the chill, which would temporarily cure him, but it wouldn't increase his chances of becoming a warrior. Then, in a strange twist, Glenn says it doesn't matter as long as the child survives. Saint taunts him, saying he's hiding his love for his granddaughter by maintaining a harsh exterior. When Saint asks why he chose a name like Shadow, Glenn explains that years ago, the name meant the exact opposite. A few days later, Sylvia gives Ryan the elixir that Saint had left. Ryan is happy because the fire-based elixir will help him overcome the chill of his forbidden circuits. Years pass, and Ryan turns 5. A system notification informs him that he has completed his second flame link, increasing his soul rank, mana affinity, focus, and stamina. This news brings him immense joy, and he suspects his rapid progress is due to system messages. The system, visible only to him and appearing shortly after birth, allowed him to check his status. The problem is that his stamina and curse haven't improved much, and he's only been able to survive thanks to the care of Elixir, Sylvia, and the maid, Helene. He understands that now, he's 5 years old, and he has time. He was the greatest assassin in his past life, and now, with the flame cultivation technique, he can overcome his weaknesses, especially once he masters the Sigurd swordsmanship style. He understands that the only weapon to defeat a transcendence like Darrow's is patience. After a while, Sylvia lets him change because they have a special place to go today, the discernment ceremony. To explain, he needs to know that the continent's balance forces are divided into 6 lords and 5 demons. Rain. He is born into the family of one of those 6 lords. The lords maintain a positive influence, while the demons threaten peace. The purpose of the ceremony is to discern jewels from stones. Today is House Sigurd ceremony. Upon arriving at the venue, people look at Sylvia and her son with contempt and speak ill of their health. They even call Sylvia a failure. Some protest that it is unfair to allow the child of a failure to attend the ceremony. But Sylvia ignores everything and moves on. Rain is affected by these things. He is impressed. But Sylvia says to just keep an eye on him. A short while later, the Lord arrives, and this is the first time Rain has seen him in 5 years. As the Lord takes his seat, a joint sword called the Sword of Discernment falls in the middle of the chamber, and the ceremony is ordered to begin. This sword can reveal the full mana potential of any child. The first child is named Warren Sigurd. The ceremony is performed on young children because after the age of 4, the skull's futures close, and the mana potential is sealed. Warren touches the sword and it emits high-quality light from every part, which people believe is expected for the son of Lord Cairn. Then comes Runan Sloughan, daughter of the vassal house Sloughan. Purity of mana is the amount of light, and the element is also visible. Runan also gives bright results and is called a prodigy. Ryan understands that the crowd is crazy about the results, but he realizes that his results will be poor due to his circuits being chilled. Even though the second flame link has been completed, when Ryan is summoned, many people look at him disdainfully. Approaching the sword, Ryan thinks it would be foolish to expect too much. Just knowing the element is enough. As he touches the sword, a strange fire erupts from it, enchanting him. Suddenly, he sees visions, terrifying monsters, and a young warrior among them. He sees the monsters towering over the warrior. Then the warrior picks up the fire-covered sword and strikes it to the ground, and the resulting explosion destroys the entire area. The vision ends, and the element displays on the sword. It happens. A bright light comes out, but less than half of the crowd jeers at him. Glenn watches silently. Sylvia assures him of his well-being and takes him back to his seat. The crowd laughs, wondering how a descendant of a house guard could have such a low result. They also mock Sylvia for simply giving her son golden hair and crimson eyes. Glenn orders everyone to remain silent and declares the ceremony over. After the crowd leaves, Glenn and his personal butler remain in the room with the Sword of Discernment. Glenn thinks Rain's condition can't be helped. Just then, bright fire erupts from the sword, and Glenn watches closely. The fire reaches a peak surrounding the sword, which no one at the ceremony saw. Glenn, stunned, notices that the light is golden, like the sun. Records show that such a light has only appeared at the founding ceremony of House Sigurd, where the transcendental aura was so fierce that it could even melt the flames of the demon rail. Such gold-colored mana has only appeared once in history. So it is now. The revelation is shocking. Glenn stares at the blinding light for a while and realizes Rain is responsible, but he doesn't understand why. 7 years after the discernment ceremony, the system window displays Rain's stats. The curse is still there. Stamina is poor. Athletic ability is weak, and mana affinity is also poor. However, he has gained some water resistance, which reduces stiffness in his limbs. He seems much closer to his third flame link, and he is now 12 years old. Sometime later, his mother reminds him that today is the next discernment. He has to attend the ceremony. Because of his past experience, Ryan is not excited about having to endure the same ordeal again. Shortly after arriving, the ceremony for the new batch is over. Ryan feels that this year's ceremony was unusually fast. Before the ceremony ends, Lord calls him and asks why he hasn't responded to the summons for basic training, which was sent a month ago. Ryan didn't know anything about basic training, so his mother responds on his behalf. He did receive the summons, but she did not tell Ryan. She pleads with the Lord that Ryan is not like other children and will not be able to endure the training because of the frost in his body. Her pleas have no effect on Lord Glenn. He says that there are no exceptions or right of refuge in Sigurd land. According to Glenn, those who cannot walk must crawl to train. That is the Sigurd way. Sylvia, shocked, says that she cannot accept such conditions. Glenn asks if she intends to leave home again as she did before. He says, "Follow the rules or leave home." The crowd cheers and talks about her past departure. Ryan hates seeing her mother mocked. From the murmuring, she learns that they dislike Sylvia because she left home. She destroyed her core and mana circuits, even though she had learned Sigurd's soldiersmanship and lost her aura. She did all this to marry her lover, who died while Ryan was still pregnant. She then had no choice but to return home. Her family treated her with disdain, because he had given up his place in the main family. Ryan clearly knows that he cannot let his mother down by joining the crowd. Suddenly, despite his mother's protests, he steps forward and speaks to the Lord, saying he will join the training next month. Dean Seeger, head of the Palace of Elders, opposes his statement, saying he had no prior knowledge and that basic training, despite its name, is not easy. Ryan insists and says he will train to prove himself worthy of the Segart name. The Lord is not happy with this, as the name Segt carries a heavy responsibility. Glenn releases his aura, enough to crush his bones, and blood spurts from Ryan's mouth. Ryan realizes that this pressure is even heavier than his previous master, Darrad. In pain, he clenches his fists and tries to endure it, but ultimately collapses. Sylvia and the maid Helen lift him up. Daenerys pleads with the Lord to take back his spiritual force. He says that Ryan is a child and doesn't understand the weight of his words. Glenn doesn't listen to anyone and he asks to be allowed to speak. Sylvia continues pleading, saying that her son is not ready for training and that he should take aura back. Breaking free from his mother's grasp, Ryan reflects on his past life, living in darkness, hidden in shadows. Now he wants to make this life better, especially to restore Sylvia's lost place. He goes to the Lord and admits that he doesn't know the name Sigurd because he was raised in the annex, not the main house. He declares that he will participate in the training and understand what this place is like. Responsibility dawns on Sylvia, Helen, and the people helping at Annex. Lord, intrigued, asks if he wants to determine the value of the Sigurd name based on training. Ryan says yes, that's the only way. Glenn says he'll order the instructor to prepare the best so Ryan doesn't get disappointed. Lord's aura falls upon him again, and he falls to the ground. The only thing on his mind is that with assassin experience and the flame rings combined, he'll be standing here. Even as he falls, he swears that the pebble he mocked was the best. A strong stone will form. Meanwhile, at the training center, Karun Sigurd speaks with the head of the Palace of Warriors Guard. He received news that Rain is ill and incapacitated. The guard confirms that several annex medics overheard the conversation between the saint and the Lord and are certain Rain's health is critical. Karun saw Rain unstable at the ceremony, but he cannot find an answer as to how he was able to withstand the Lord's aura. He thinks that Sylvia's potential was unique, which explains his son's ability. Finally, Karun orders the guards to. He orders someone sent to the annex to monitor everything. Meanwhile, Rain overworks as usual, and Sylvia reminds him that she warned him not to. Sometime later, at the 5th Seeger training ground, Lord Glenn visits instructor Lamer, whom he catches pretending to be asleep. Glenn wakes him up and taunts him, saying he hasn't matured in 50 years. As a lair elf, he doesn't age, so he hasn't really changed. Lemern suspects Glenn is talking about his grandson. He arrives and bluntly says that Sylvia just arrived and he won't cut back on his training because Glenn has given him absolute control. Glenn says he hasn't come to plead, but to insist on maintaining or raising standards so that the weak can be weeded out. Lur thinks Glenn is looking for an indirect way to show affection to grandson. Glenn laughs and says that if he weren't an old friend, he would have decapitated him. Ryan remains curious. Meanwhile, Ryan completes his 3rd flame link, which increases his body and soul ranks, constitution and dexterity, mana affinity, focus, stamina, and water resistance are all increased by 3 stars. One benefit is that a strand of the curse of frost has disappeared. This message brings him joy, and it's clear that he's achieved this through hard work, but not overwork, with the help of his mother. The magical status window is also helping to accelerate his growth, but all of this is nothing compared to the intense training that Sigurd will undergo. This 3-star flame link is merely the foundation on which he will build his house. His plan is to performing extraordinary accomplishments to silence the mocking voices forever, and then completing his revenge by killing Darius Robert. While thinking about this, his mother comes to talk to him at night, as he is leaving for basic training the next day. She asks if he really has to go, fearing that Ryan will push himself through the pain and get seriously injured during training. His mother suggests waiting just one more year, but Ryan says he can't. His reason is, he says he can't bear to see the main and branch families looking down on his mother and treating the annex residents with pity, and he believes he can end all this if he performs well in his training. Hearing this, Sylvia becomes emotional and surprised that he is so considerate of their situation. She tells him that she met his father by chance on a mission, but it was difficult to live with him because he was just an ordinary knight. To win his love, she had to destroy her core and mana circuits, and she had to leave her family. Rain had an older sister, Ja. While living a peaceful life with her husband, a group called the Cadre of Eden recognized Sylvia and suddenly attacked her. She was pregnant and her husband was not powerful enough, so they could not do anything. She saw her family die before her eyes, before the secret team sent by her father could save her. The team could not reach quickly due to the distance, and when they did, her husband and daughter were dead. It was unsafe to live alone, so she had to return home, and that is why she became the scapegoat of the Sigard household. When she returned, she had no excuse for her father. Hearing her story, Ryan understands that she abandoned her family responsibilities for her own happiness and later returned to save her own life. This is why the Sigards hate her, but for Ryan, she is the woman who gave him life and showed him love for the first time. This is his first mother in 2 lifetimes. Therefore, he cannot behave like others do. Suddenly, he asks if Sylvia regrets leaving home. Sylvia says no. As a Sigurd, she always felt invisible, and only after leaving home did she feel like a person. She loved that time and is happy to have Ryan. Her only regret is that she wasn't a good enough mother to him. Ryan assures her that she needn't worry anymore. Suddenly, Sylvia starts crying loudly, and Ryan calms her down, wondering why she's crying. After calming her down, Ryan returns to his room to inspect the Flemling's condition because next, it's the day of basic training. While undergoing inspection, a strange phantom creature appears in his room. He declares that the time has finally come and reveals that he has arrived to summon Bowling Rage. His name is Rot, the second ruler of the demon world, who has come to fulfill his vengeance. He outlines the terms and conditions under which Rain must sacrifice his body and soul, but he is shocked that he has been summoned by a child. Rain is also astonished, and the two begin to question each other. Rot refuses to believe that a child could generate so much rage, but after examining him, he changes his mind. He tells Rain to submit to Soul so that his revenge can be executed, but Rain refuses his help. He says he will carry out his revenge with his own 2 hands because he wants to take Dario's head. Wrath changes his tone and says that this is not a negotiation. The demon world has decided, and he will take what he wants. In frenzy, the creature surrounds him with cold fire and tries to force its way into his body. The impact freezes Rain's body and mind. Spirit encourages him. They promise to destroy all his enemies, even God himself. Ryan can withstand the chill due to his increased water resistance. But the being isn't just attacking with cold. It's also enhancing his inner rage. The spirit taunts him, saying they will crush his enemies' heads and consume their flesh. If only he could surrender his body. Ryan fears that Sylvia or Meds won't be safe if he does so. Finally, the being becomes impatient and says that they were trying to save his body, but now they're attacking him directly. They will destroy him. The pressure becomes so great that Ryan feels he will break apart. Before he does, he gets the idea to use Flame Link to lessen the burden, just as water resistance did against chill. He activates his Fire Link, and a bright light bursts from his body, shocking the spirit. He rages, wondering how a mere human child can withstand their pressure. Ryan reiterates that he will avenge himself and will not give his body to any specter. Wrath becomes furious when he sees himself. Spectre hears him being called and asks how he can insult the ruler of the demon world. Ryan mocks that he isn't that great because he can't defeat him. Knight realizes his full strength hasn't returned. Just then, a message appears on the screen about a new skill being unlocked. System Windows fill Wrath with rage, who claims the system is his power. Ryan asks what the messages and status windows have to do with him, and Spirit explains that he created the system. Ryan wants to further investigate why the system was created. Gone? But Wrath doesn't say anything. When Rain asks if the system was created to accelerate growth, Roth's expression changes, and Roth realizes the answer is yes. The Flameling's effects are now even stronger than in their previous lives. That was his intention. When Roth demands that he surrender his body or return the system, Roth throws a mana-packed punch, but it has no effect. Roth realizes that controlling him is futile, so Roth wraps himself around Rain's hand and transforms into a bracelet. He does this because the seal has been broken for some time, and his true power hasn't returned yet. His plan is to wait until his strength returns and then take his place. Ryan considers removing the bracelet, but realizes that this could cause the system to disappear or harm the spirits, Sylvia and Helen. So he thinks it's better to keep it nearby to keep it under control. Ryan asks why he made such a flowery bracelet, and Wrath insists that it's his choice. The next day, Sylvia is tense, and Helen comforts her. Ryan comes out, ready to leave, and the two women, a look of gloom appears on his face. Helen advises him not to overexert himself, and he promises. Sylvia remains sad for a while. Then she tells Ryan to give his best. After he leaves, Sylvia seeks assurance from Helen that her child will be okay. Helen says that Ryan's health has improved significantly, and he may be able to complete his training. Hearing this, Sylvia feels a little relieved. Helen, who had cried inside for a long time, had extracted a promise from him that he would not overwork or hurt himself. After a while, several children, the fifth, gather at the entrance to the training ground and chat. Meanwhile, Ryan stands alone, reflecting on the fact that the training ground is not just occupied by members of the main and branch families, but also by vassal families and recommended outsiders. Some boys gossip about Ryan's weak limbs and jokingly ask why he doesn't just run away from training. They also comment on his flowery bracelet, which enrages Wrath, who hurls abuse at them. But they're lucky. They can't look at him. Hearing their conversation, Ryan approaches them and asks why they don't say it to his face instead of crying behind his back. The boys are shocked and defensive, asking how a branch family child, who lives in the annex, could talk to them like that, even though they themselves are from branch. When Ryan points out that only those who consider themselves superior to others speak such words, the boys become even more enraged, and one grabs him by the collar and threatens to remind him of his place. A mad glint appears in Ryan's eyes, and he cracks his fingers. But then a child from the main family interrupts them. It's Warren Sigart, the same prodigy who was tested before Ryan at the first discernment ceremony. Warren scolds the boys, asking if they're trying to embarrass the family in front of outsiders. The boys immediately apologize. Warren then approaches Ryan and asks if he still doesn't know his place. He proudly declares that Ryan is just dust that he can sweep away at will, and that he should keep his head down. Otherwise, he'll be expelled from the annex. He will. To Warren, Ryan is here because he took advantage of the opportunity at Discernment Hall, not because of any skill. He calls him a failure waiting to be removed. As he leaves, he says that if he doesn't intend to participate in the training, then he should leave because there's no guarantee of passing. Before Warren leaves, Ryan taunts him that he should have added more enthusiasm to his rant. He says that being a member of the main family doesn't make him important because he has no rank or authority. He jokes. He realizes he has only one option: complain to his father. Warren turns red and can only say, "How dare you?" Just then, Instructor Lawmeyer bursts through the door. He is amazed that the boys have started fighting. Ryan, who didn't know who the instructor would be, recognizes him as Sword of Light, who had retired due to core damage. Lumbmeyer separates the boys and tells them to fight after the admission ceremony. At the ceremony, he introduces himself. There are 160 people in total participating in the training, which he thinks is too many. So, he says he will reduce them to just a quarter through a test. The kids are scared that so many people will be eliminated on the first day. Lamer says that his word is the law, and if they want to complain, then they should go to the head of the house. Soon the stamina and focus test begins and the kids start running on the track. The instruction is to run at full speed until Lamer stops them or not. Red asks why Ryan is behind when he can go ahead. Ryan thinks that this is not a competition, so there is no need to be faster than others, especially when the instructor is Reliance and he must be gauging temperament. He's confident that the winner of this test will be the one who can survive to the end, and he will. The instructors notice that Warren and Runyon are ahead, and that their ability at such a young age suggests future potential. When they observe Ryan, they recognize that he's impressive despite being a Sikh, but predict that he'll soon fall. Lamer watches him calmly. He says he can see the nuances and threads of children's personalities, but for Ryan, he can't discern anything, which happens only when someone's personality is strong. The potential is beyond his understanding. The boys from earlier look back and joke that Ryan won't last another 10 minutes. Ryan thinks this training is just about running, whereas in his previous life, starving beasts were unleashed upon them and they ran for their lives. Sometime later, when they are still running, Lear is surprised that Ryan is still running, even though his stamina has long been exhausted. This is more than determination, because his body has been drained. This focus is found in those who have experienced torment and death. They've faced each other many times. Warren notices that Ryan is still hot on his heels and wonders how a sick child could do such a thing. He had heard his father and the guards say that Ryan is a Sikh. Angered, Warren uses his aura to show everyone that they are not equals. He overtakes, leaving Runan and Ryan behind. Ryan thinks Warren is immature, while Runan is smart. Ryan doesn't try to overtake anyone, as this isn't a race. Other students are falling by the wayside. Some ask, "Who is this Ryan?" And some, they're jealous that he's still running like this despite being sick. Someone asks if he's tired. Ryan laughs inwardly because the chill inside him is killing him every second, and his heart and lungs are about to collapse. He manages to squeeze some stamina from Flame Link. Wraith, sensing his condition, tempts him to surrender his body so he can crush Warren. Wraith attacks him with a cold attack, worsening his condition. But Ryan pretends everything is fine. Wraith is certain no human could endure this. Ryan knows that if he loses his weakness, if exposed, the spirit will destroy him. He continues running, losing his vision, breath, and body control. Just as he's about to collapse, the instructor's voice stops the test. Warren looks at him with contempt, not giving up until the end, while Renan watches him with interest. Knight is puzzled as to why Cold hasn't done anything. Ryan reminds him that he asked for a training vest. Knight's attack actually strengthened his flame links because he had to push his body to the limit. Just then, the screen shows intense movement condition meet. Hui and his strength, dexterity, and constitution increase, making Wrath even more furious. After the children gather, Lamar praises everyone's hard work and reveals that his initial statement about reducing the number by a quarter was a lie. He says it wouldn't have been wise to fail so many on the first day, and he didn't say that this would be the test most would fail. But he warns that if they treat training like today, many will definitely fail, especially since he told them to run at full speed, and only Warren, who secretly used aura, ran at full speed until the end. He instructs them to follow his orders seriously or else they will fail and the training will not be easy. From that moment on, they become temporary trainees until a 6-month exam, and will only be considered permanent if they pass. At the end of the 6 months, Lair will also choose one of them as valedictorian. Later, Lair goes to take a nap on a large rock in the nearby forest. But Lord Glenn meets him there. Glenn asks about the test and is told that Warren and Runan are as great as expected. They have potential, and the other children could become future pillars of House Sigurd. The only problem is Rain, as Lear can't see anything wrong with him. He explains that Rain ran to the end despite running out of stamina, the second time in his career. This situation, with Master Glenn for the first time, is a source of amusement for Lear, who has been very worried since his core was destroyed. As Glenn leaves, Lear says that this batch will produce someone he can trust for his future. Lear calls it a coincidence. He insists that the boy cannot become a swordsman, but Lamar refuses to accept this. Meanwhile, as Ryan finishes his training, he heads towards the Saints' training room, which some of the boys overhear. They argue about how Ryan managed to run for so long, despite the fact that he is confirmed to be sick. Crane Sigurd of the Branch family explains that he heard the elder gave him the elixir, and that was the trick. The boys become angry that Ryan outdid them with the elix. They decide to teach him a lesson, and after a while, they catch him and hang him from a tree. They collide. Ryan doesn't understand why they're suddenly attacking. The boys explain that they're angry that a boy from the main family is using elixir to prove himself superior. Knuckles cracks up, saying they just want to talk. Wrath gets furious and wants to break their heads. Before they can say anything, Ryan, a maniac to the core, beats all three boys and leaves them in a bad condition. The scene is so beautiful that Wrath almost blushes. When the boys lie on the ground begging for mercy, Ryan asks if Warren instigated them. The boys say Warren had nothing to do with it, which Ryan finds hard to believe because he knows Warren hates him. Upon confirmation, he threatens them with even worse consequences if they tell anyone about this conversation or come near him again. The boys flee in fear, thankful they were safe. Meanwhile, Liar, who was watching from behind a tree, is amused and feels as if he's watching young Glenn. This strengthens his suspicion that Ryan, hidden among the great potentials, is the unknown potential. Upon arriving home, the system notifies him that by pleasing Rot, he has earned a new status, increasing his dexterity by 1, as always. This drives Rot mad that he gets points just for pleasing others, and he calls the system nonsense. When Rain reminds him that he created the system, Rot says that it's new to him because his system has never been stolen. Amidst the verbal abuse, when Rain is not paying attention, Rot makes him an offer. He can earn extra points in his stats. He earns points by absorbing their rage, whether he wins or loses. The condition is that he must achieve first rank in the training exam, just like Lamer said. Winning will earn him a random attribute, whose rank will be adjusted according to his weak body. Losing will earn him a small amount of night rage, which will be small now, but could become uncontrollable in the future, as the spirit tells you in terms up front. Ryan understands that he's not lying. The reward far outweighs the risk. This is a poisoned apple, but his past experience allows him to win, gives him confidence. He accepts the offer. Knight smiles at the acceptance, thinking that his plan to slowly take over Ryan's body has begun. Sometime later, the kids go through another exercise. They are exhausted from running and are now doing horse stands. Lamar motivates them by saying that this is the foundation of all school and everyone has to do it. He tells them to maintain the position until he stops and goes to sleep to give them incentive not to quit. He reminds them that the final test he won't. Some students complain that the exercises are tiring and want to learn swordsmanship. After the exercises, Warren invites some of the boys to practice sword techniques, as basic training could ruin their swordsmanship. Rod asks Ryan to join, but Ryan believes that learning swordsmanship is useless at his current level. Stamina and strength are needed, not swordsmanship, especially since he has the curse of bitter frost. He needs to focus on the basics. Ryan is working out in the gym and Vassal House. Renan Sloan stalks him. She is shocked that he has gained so much weight in just a few days, despite being reported sick. She doesn't understand how Ryan is gaining so much weight so quickly and thinks he might be using different stands. Curiosity piques her interest. She approaches him but says nothing. Her gaze unsettles Ryan. After watching for a while, She sits down at another weight and begins lifting weights herself. Seeing this, Ryan becomes alarmed and leaves her alone. He goes to another weight, but Renan continues to follow him. She remembers that earlier, Ryan had caught a stab, which made her body feel lighter, and she was able to lift more weight than the normal limit. Ryan asks if she has anything to say, but Runan clearly says no. She silently decides that she will follow Ryan everywhere. Sometime later, Warren and the boys come to the gym and are irritated to see Runan hanging out with a boy who was expelled from the main family. The pitiful basic training is pointless, and he believes Ryan is doing all this because of his weak body and that he will never reach their superior quality. He rallies the boys to practice for their upcoming test, confident that the test will reveal who is right, him or Ryan. Sometime later, a boy named Dorian, a respectable Ryan, asks if he can train with him because he has noticed Runan stalking him. Dorian is not a Sigurd but from an outside family. Ryan reluctantly agrees. Excited, Dorian offers him a biscuit. Hesitantly, Ryan is about to return it when he sees Runan staring at him with hungry eyes. He watches. His innocent, dog-like face scares Ryan, so he relents and gives him the biscuit. Gradually, the three of them start working out together. They even stay close together during races, and a bond begins to form. After some time, flower time arrives. Pace Snake comes to call the pack, but the training continues. It's been 6 months since basic training, and Ryan is running every day as if his life depends on it. At this point, he easily outruns everyone else in the race except Runan and Warren. Time passes, and the day of the exam arrives. Different. Parents and guardians from across the realms come to watch their children perform. They gather in the large arena, and Lamar addresses them. Sylvia, Helene, and Lord Karun are also seen sitting in the crowd. Meanwhile, Rot reminds Ryan of their wager. He's sure Ryan will accept the race in defeat, as he couldn't beat Runan and Warren in training. Ryan brushes it off, saying exams are a different game, and you never know what might happen. A short while later, Runan and Ryan find Dorian huddled in a corner. The exam results. Scared. The bond between Ryan and Renan is evident when she randomly gives him a biscuit. Looking at the people around him, Ryan thinks he only attracts strange people. Meanwhile, Helen and Sylvia are happy that their son was able to endure 6 months of training with pride and make some friends. Just then, the arrival of the head of house is announced, and everyone is surprised because it's his first time attending this event. Lumiere also expresses surprise at the Lord's arrival, and Glenn replies that this exam decides the future of the house, so the Lord's presence is essential. Once Lord is seated, Lamera decides to begin the trainee selection exam. But first, he must explain what the exam is, as he hasn't told anyone before. Suddenly, Lamera's storm releases and reveals that the exam is to penetrate his spiritual force. He explains that fighters cannot escape the spiritual force and that this is a test of their spirit strength. Nearby, the guardians protest that the children don't even know how to use their aura properly, yet they are being forced to face the spiritual force. Lamera, tired of their complaints, he explains that spiritual force isn't a manifestation of aura, but rather a rank of the soul, built through a warrior's experiences and accomplishments. A true warrior doesn't need an aura. Protests escalate, but Lord Glenn interrupts and says that Lamar isn't wrong. Warriors, whether possessing an aura or not, develop their own unique spiritual force based on their lives. Intense training can also make those without an aura formidable. His words fall silent. Lamar declares that if there are no more complaints, the exam should begin. Runan is called first. She leaves. Lear tells her that the spiritual force she will face can be overcome if she gives her all in training. He unleashes a tremendous force upon her, causing her to tremble. She is warned that using aura will result in immediate disqualification. She only has mental forte. Despite the opposing force, Renan struggles and reaches Lear's hand. She almost falls. Lear catches her and praises her efforts. Next, Dorian is called, sweating with fear. He's drenched. He has to do the same. but he feels he doesn't have the mental strength. He reminds Warren that when things get tough, he resorts to aura, and if he uses aura here, he'll fail. Warren can't fail. He remembers his father's coldness, who had harshly reprimanded his elder brother. He feels that if he fails, his father will abandon him too. He moves forward with all his might and finally grabs Lamar's legs. Lamar advises him that he's only 12 years old and he should stop pretending to be mature and act age appropriate. Training is necessary. The last name called is Ryan Seegert. As he steps forward, a powerful spiritual force falls upon him, nearly knocking him off balance. But the force's intensity is far greater than the other children's, worrying Sylvia and Helen. Even Lord Glenn is startled. Ryan wonders to himself, is this really his test? Lamer is doing this because he sees more potential in Ryan than Runan and Warren. He says, go all out. What matters here is not physical form, but the expansion of the soul. Ryan has the advantage. He possesses not only the spirit of Roa Seegert, but also the experience of the assassin Ryan. Amazingly, he cuts through the spiritual force and attracts Lord's attention. Unlike the others, Ryan doesn't falter. He rushes straight at Lamar and pushes him back. The scene is so shocking that the crowd erupts in song. Lamar and Lord Glenn are stunned. Ryan smiles and asks, did I pass? The others can't believe this Sikh boy was able to do so much. Karun is also shocked. Lamar, stunt continues for a while, wondering how a Sikh child who can't use Aurora has endured so much. Finally, he asks, what are you? Ryan calmly replies, my name is Ryan, the same child you've been watching for 6 months. Lamer protests that he used spiritual force beyond Ryan's capacity just to see him struggle. Therefore, it shouldn't have been possible for him to penetrate him. Ryan's simple shrug at his statement further irritates him. Soon, the time comes for Lamer to discuss his exam results and the promised top. Announce the trainee's name. Warren and his father become tense when Lamar announces Ryan's name as the top trainee. Sylvia and Helen burst into joy, tears in their eyes, that their Ryan came first. People discuss these shocking results. Then Warren loudly declares that he cannot accept these results because they are rigged. Lamar is shocked by his accusation, and then Warren arrogantly declares that he is superior to Ryan in strength, constitution, and potential. When he speculates that Ryan must have used a trick or spell, some people support him, asking how Ryan could have done this without the curse of bitter frost and aura. Protests grow so intense that even Lamer's straightforwardness is questioned. Eventually, Warren proposes that the matter be settled through direct combat. Lamer observes that Warren is doing all this because he wants the top-ranked title and leaves the decision to Lord Glenn. The Lord asks Ryan if he is willing to spar. He is ready to prove the results are true. Ryan says he won't spar because the results have been announced and he won't benefit. To settle the score, Lord proposes they spar for the top trainee title, with Ryan receiving a bronze medal if he wins. This catches Ryan's attention as the gold, silver, and bronze medals offered by House Seegert offer valuable rewards. The offer convinces him. The rules are set. 1 round. Weapons and auras are prohibited. Only the physical body is allowed. The spar begins, and Warren throws a quick punch, which Ryan dodges near the nose. Warren, startled, launches a kick, which Ryan blocks. Warren proudly declares his technique, the charging tiger technique, taught to him by his father, and he relentlessly attacks Ryan. The crowd agrees, believing Ryan won't be able to retaliate. Warren's pain is that a boy from a weak branch family is challenging him. His only thought is that his father is watching, and he needs to prove it. Ryan relentlessly blocks, or Dodge continues to dodge as he studies Warren's attacks and flow and finally figures it out. When Ryan suddenly halts, Warren realizes he's given up. Warren lunges forward for a final strike, but Ryan matches the punch with his own. Warren's arm snaps back, and Ryan delivers a crushing punch to his stomach, knocking him out of breath and spit. This turn of events shocks the crowd and Warren's father. Lord Glenn is stunned to see Ryan counter with a charging tiger fist. How did he do it? Warren asks how he learned the technique. Ryan says, "You showed me, and I just imitated it." The crowd begins to whisper, "How did this brat learn so quickly?" Warren still hasn't recovered, and Lamar realizes Ryan is the real deal. He wonders how Ryan nullified the charging tiger with a reverse spin. Just by watching, he sees this as the talent Segart was looking for, the one who could stand at the pinnacle of the continent. A moment later, Ryan is declared the winner, as everyone agrees. Sylvia can't help but tearfully embraces Runyon. Runyon's father also embraces her. Warren, on the other hand, only gets his butler. His father turns his back, as he feared most. That night, a heavy silence descends on Warren's house. Finally, his father asks if he remembers that he told him not to make top rank and lose to anyone. He asks if Warren wants to embarrass him by underperforming Lorne Brad and the son of a failure. He reminds him that he's already. His chance is lost, and his only chance for redemption is to pass his final graduation exam. He leaves, and Warren realizes he can't waste his last chance to live the life of a Maine family. Anger forces him to blame Ryan. He can't understand how he's been left behind despite all his hard work. Wandering angrily, he reaches the gym, which is empty. Near the lockers, he peeks into Ryan's locker and is shocked. There are about 10 pairs of shoes there, and he's worn them all out in 6 months. He remembers that how often did he see Ryan training tirelessly in the gym, while he himself was busy swinging his sword or relaxing? Warren, realizing that Ryan was displaying true Sigard attitude and not him, quietly puts everything back and leaves. A while later, Wrath, who lost the wager, curses and says he's never seen anyone like Ryan in his entire existence. He asks who Ryan is, but gets no answer. Just then, the screen notifies that Ryan has won the wager. All his stats are doubled, and he receives the Knight attribute. Awareness of the snow. Flower. Wrath explains that it's a godly attribute, but useless for this particular body. This skill increases the range of senses, but only by 8% with a 1-star. Wrath proudly explains that with the system, he could have increased his senses tenfold. Ryan finds the name strange and mocks the Knight test, which makes Spirit furious. Sometime later, a message comes from the main building that Lord has summoned Ryan. This makes Sylvia tense. But the butler says not to worry. No, Mas Seged himself is going to give her the bronze medal. Upon reaching the throne room, Lord Glenn appears dissatisfied with the situation. However, he keeps his promise and hands over the medallion. He is told that he can return it and demand a suitable reward. Glenn immediately asks what he must do to restore his mother to her original place. The Lord is shocked. Glenn clarifies whether he wants his mother back with the main family. Glenn says yes. Glenn explains that it is possible if he can produce an achievement that the entire house will acknowledge. But this is easier said than done. In the Segert house, receiving recognition is like touching the moon. Especially for such an experienced child, the challenge excites Ryan. He thanks Glenn. Bronze Melian returns and starts to leave. The Lord stops him, saying that he could have gotten the answer directly from his medallion, and yet his reward hasn't been claimed. Ryan suddenly remembers what he needs most right now, so he asks for a cultivation technique, but he's told that the instructors will teach him in basic training. Our boy says that he needs basic training. He needs a higher aura cultivation technique than that, as he wants a technique worthy of the Bronze Melian. The shadow cultivation technique from his previous life isn't enough, and he needs a stronger technique to bring back Sylvia and take Darius's head. Lord Glenn snaps his fingers, and suddenly a mysterious library opens, revealing hundreds of towering books. Ryan is stunned. Lord Glenn explains that this is only a small portion of the segmented bookshelves, and he simply needs to stand in the center and raise his hand to reveal the book he most desires. She will choose it herself. Ryan hopes this new technique will be better than the shadow technique. Suddenly, a book falls off the shelf and into his hands. The book is very old and worn out, but seeing the book that has been chosen, Lord Glenn and his butler are shocked. The Lord wonders how Ryan got the same book. Just then, Flames emerge from the book and surround Ryan, and he wonders what this has to do with the cultivation technique. As Ryan opens the book, an explosive light bursts. Even the Lord is surprised to see the fire. Suddenly, Ryan has a vision in which a guard reports to Lord Glenn that Sylvia has left home. The Lord coldly declares that he doesn't care. Family growth comes first. The vision reveals that the Lord considered emotions a luxury in the past, and by caring only for the growth of the house, he achieved martial power that transcended the limits of demons. But he paid the price for it with his own human emotions. Then comes the news that his daughter's family has been killed, and Lord Glenn trembles. At that moment, he regains his emotions. But there's no turning back. He decides that this time, even if the world hates him, he will protect the child. Ryan is confused as to what kind of book it is. Suddenly, the book disappears, and its essence fills Ryan's body. Lord calls out to him and asks what he just did. Ryan simply says he doesn't know, but he remembers the entire content of the technique. Lord tests him and asks him the name of the technique, especially since he hasn't read the book. After a moment of hesitation, Ryan says the Million Flames technique. The screen immediately pops up. He realizes that the million flames have been burned into his memory and that he has seen the flames of eternity. Lord Glenn confirms that Rain remembers the technique and explains that it was a worthy reward for the bronze million. He can now leave. As Rain leaves, the butler is astonished as the technique belonged to the founding lord and no one in the Housey history has been able to obtain or read it. Therefore, he never expected Rain to find this book. The butler worries that if anyone finds out, Lady Sylvia and Rain's lives could be in danger. He assures him that no one knows about it. Ryan understands that the book and its contents have been passed down to him. Lord Glenn explains that no one has been able to use this technique, and it would have rotted on the shelf if it hadn't been for Ryan. This makes him believe that times are changing. Ryan finds it difficult to understand why the Lord would give him such a valuable secret, beyond gold or silver. This technique is of the legendary Fireling level, making it worth learning. But the problem is that Ryan can't even gather the aura. He wasn't expected to comprehend it immediately. He will be able to do it. But it is proving to be more difficult than that. Wrath notices that things are not going in his desired direction. Surprisingly, he advises that Ryan try his best because this is a rare cultivation technique, and if it is interrupted, the body may become invalid. The Golden Flames technique draws mana from nature and accumulates aura in the core. Therefore, a disturbance at a critical moment could break the core. Ryan warns Wrath not to interfere, but Spirit Death gives him years and openly says that he will definitely interfere once. Ryan says that the body will be useless if it becomes invalid, but Rot says that he can repair the body. Rot sees this as a golden opportunity because a human will not survive. Ryan pretends that he is not afraid, but Rot says, "Stop acting and tremble with fear because I never know when I will attack." For the first time, Ryan sees him as a real enemy. This is unsurprising because Roth is a demon. Roth's living eater will destroy the body as soon as he gets the chance. Until now, Ryan hadn't noticed because the spirit was behaving calmly. But now she must maintain constant surveillance. Meanwhile, she notices another matter, a maid sneaking out at night. The maid is a spy for Lord Karoon, the Judial, and writes reports that Rayan isn't much of a character. He just occasionally mutters to himself. But this time, she has something important. The caliber of the cultivation technique the Lord gave Rayan from the Bronze Million, and the extraordinary mana flow he felt during cultivation. This information is crucial for the Palace of Warriors, but she wonders how long she can keep writing reports on children. As usual, she drops the paper into the river to reach her boss. Just then, a knife touches her neck, and a cold voice declares, "If you move, I'll kill you." Terrified, she asks who the attacker is, but the voice, its killing intent, and its presence paralyze her. In her reflection in the water, she sees Rayan's face. Rayan tells Kamali that he's been feeling someone's watching him since his return and asks if she's satisfied with his report. The maid is shocked, as she was certain he left no trace. It's now clear that Rayan was the one all along. He was aware. He was just acting. He forces her to open her mouth and stuffs something into it, causing her to feel nauseous. He then retrieves her report paper from the river, only to discover it's a special code. After making some guesses and noting her reactions, Ryan deduces that the password is Moonlight, leaving Judiel in shock. Furthermore, when she calls out a name and arrives at Karun Sigurd, her face twitches in a tiny way, making Ryan understand that she's acting on his orders. Judiel, who, having trained for years to become the perfect spy, Stunt is left wondering if she read his expressions without him saying a word. Suddenly, she realizes that the substance burning intense heat in her body is not a normal poison, but a rage worm. In a flashback, Lord Karun orders her to go to the annex and gather all the information she can about Sylvia and Ryan for a substantial reward. In the present, Judiel asks if she fed him a rage worm. Ryan is shocked that she doesn't know about it. She knows. She can't spit it out, even if she tries. The rage worm's job is to track the host's location and emotions and, at the feeder's command, inflict a painful death. Ryan also figures out that she's a spy for the Palace of Warriors, planted there since the discernment ceremony 7 months ago. Horror spreads across Judiel's face. This mission should have been as simple as monitoring a normal child. She had hoped to keep an eye on a Sikh child and his powerless mother, but she had no idea that a monster resided within the annex. Fearing, she immediately offers to change the report and falsify everything, but Ryan rejects this, fearing that the truth will eventually reach Karun, exposing his incompetence. He coldly tells her, "From now on, you'll be a double agent. You'll only give him the information he can get, and you'll conceal any secrets. In return, you'll give Ryan all the critical information about Karun." Judiel immediately agrees. The wry smile on Ryan's face makes it seem like they're joking over a cup of tea.
Yes.
He says he'll give him some important information the next time they meet and leaves. Wraith is stunned that Ryan was able to summon such a large entity, even though he was with him all the time. The truth is, Ryan never gave him a rage worm. He finds the idea disgusting. He only gave him a poison that causes temporary intense pain. When asked about mind reading, Ryan says that information is obtained through different methods. "I also have my own methods." Wraith, surprised, says, "You're not a human, but a monster." Time passes, and Ryan focuses on creating his aura, but he can't achieve his goal before the time comes. Training. Returning to the grounds, they discover that only 45 students passed. This proves that Lemire will indeed cut trainees to quarters. Renan meets Ryan, and the two stare at each other for a while, causing Rhett to freak out. In a flashback, in the main house, Renan's mother asks if Ryan helped her with her training. She answers yes. Then, her mother teaches her that it's necessary to thank Ryan when she receives help. In the present, Renan suddenly thanks Ryan. This catches Ryan off guard, even wroth. She wonders why she's suddenly becoming polite. Dorian then enters and complains that he almost died during his temporary trainee days, and now, after becoming a formal trainee, he's been watching nightmares for 6 months to see how tough the training would be. He claims Ryan's results are better than Warren's, but he doesn't realize Warren is standing behind him. He falls to the ground in fear. Warren comes in front of Ryan. There's silence, and suddenly he bows and admits his mistake. He says he accepts defeat, but that doesn't mean that he's given up. He'll face it again. All stunts remain. Ryan is amazed that a 13-year-old can recognize his mistake. This is the true Sieghard spirit. There's no respect at night, only rage. He yells, "Break that insolent kid's head off." Just then, Lamar arrives. He congratulates the kids on becoming formal trainees and tells them that proper training will begin now. There will be additions to the basics. Just then, a door slams open, and a strange girl enters the field. She curses beyond her years because the door won't open. Dorian is frightened because he recognizes her. Lamar reveals that she's a failed trainee from the previous batch, named Marta Segart. She has a very rough appearance and refuses to even let Lamar introduce herself. Her primary agenda is to challenge the top of the previous batch, as she won't tolerate a weakling at the helm. Ryan appears. She sees him and says he doesn't look like a winner, but she doesn't care. Warren calls out from behind and asks why she's behaving so disgracefully. Marta turns around and threatens him. If she doesn't manage, she'll die. Warren tells her that if she's challenging Ryan's win, she should remember that the result was approved by the chief instructor and Lord Segard. She replies that she also heard Warren had a tandem, so let him do his thing. Warren publicly declares that he won't repeat his pathetic actions. Hearing this, everyone feels a change in him. Runan then intervenes and tells Marta to leave. Marta says it looks like a family reunion of losers, so she leaves them. But it was a distraction. She suddenly launches a sneak attack on Ryan, but Ryan easily blocks and dodges. In response, Ryan throws a killer punch, which Marta blocks, but the impact throws her back. Satisfaction is visible on Lamar's face, and shock on Marta's. She charges again in anger, but Lamar stops her in a flash. Lamar laughs and says, "I'm not good at ignoring you. I have feelings too." He explains that, unlike Runan and Warren, Ryan hasn't even learned to use aura yet. That's why they fight. We'll do it later. Marta is forced to agree. Knight overreacts and says, "Why did you leave him? Beat him and lock him in ice." Ryan calmly replies, "Violence isn't necessary right now. When he has what I want, then I'll put the top trainee title at stake. Patience right now." Training then begins with stances, and the kids get a 10-minute break. Warren, who is focusing on the basics, understands that it's not that easy. He's already learned the second form, which wasn't difficult. But the third form is more involved and he's having trouble. Ryan, on the other hand, learned all 7 forms within a month, while Warren took a full month to learn the first 7. His concern is that they'll be together in swordsmanship classes. Warren isn't the only one feeling the pressure. He asks Marta, who is struggling herself, how she's coping. Marta curses, maddened by the thought that Ryan is learning fish techniques for the first time and yet mastering them so quickly. Unlike Warren and Runyon, Ryan has no prior training. He was found, and worse, he still has the curse of frost in his body. Yet, he can train all day long. This realization fills Marta with rejoicing. She reminds herself that she's never been left behind. From the day she was adopted into House Sigurd, she's been a predator. She never took the prodigies of the main and branch families seriously and laughed at their disapproving faces because she was the real prodigy. Now, for the first time, she's feeling nervous, and she hates it. At the end of the day, a worker praises her, but she ignores it. The worker stops her and says that no matter how much Ryan achieves, he will never be able to beat her. Not now, not ever. Marta asks for an explanation, and he reminds her of Ryan's critical weakness, a weakness that can never be overcome. Meanwhile, Ryan is busy practicing swords, and some boys ask him questions about sword stances. Ryan gives a demonstration, and they are amazed by his technique. From a distance, Marta sarcastically compliments Ryan on how quickly he's progressed. He's even reached his swordsmanship class and might even be called a prodigy. But she also intentionally says that Rain's mana sensitivity is so poor that all his sword talent will be wasted because he can't use mana. She jokes that maybe he'll become an instructor in the future. Best case scenario, the entire hall falls silent. Exactly the reaction Marta wanted. Her intention was to remind her that even after 4 months, Rain hasn't learned aura. Behind the scenes, Butler had told her that Rain's aura talent was very poor and that previously, his potential was absurdly low at the discernment ceremony. Now, he's the only one unable to use aura at the 5th training grounds. Butler speculates that even the cultivation techniques obtained with the bronze medallion are mid or upper level and relatively strong. If Ryan can't master even that, his mana talent is at the lowest rank. Marta is pleased to hear this, as it means that the sod and fish techniques will never make him a proper warrior. In fact, it still bothers her that a failure counted her attack. While she's rejoicing at her words, She notices Runan glaring at her. Upon questioning, Runan coldly forces her to leave the training hall. After training all day, Ryan decides to call it quits. He enjoys learning martial arts because in his previous life, he learned techniques for survival and assassination. Now, learning real martial arts is fun. Rod is predictably furious that Rod didn't say anything when Marta humiliates him, but Rod pretends he didn't hear. He reminds Rod that right now, fighting won't achieve anything. Suddenly, there's a knock, and upon opening the door, Runan stands there holding a box. Ryan is shocked to see her, and even more so when she opens the box and offers him a small brown confection. His assassin instincts stop him, but he doesn't doubt that Runan will harm him. He takes a bite and is stunned by the taste. Wrath also says that he's never tasted such sweetness in the demon world. Both react like crazy, and Runan quietly explains that it's called ice cream. She walks away without turning around. Wrath. She immediately asks for another one. But Ryan wonders if she came worried about him. Runan is a sweet tooth, so she gave him her last ice cream orb. The thought brings a smile to his face, and he decides he needs to repay her somehow. Ryan returns home, and Sylvia reacts as if he's returned after months, even though he was only training for a week. He reads Judiel's monthly report and asks if they got any intel from the Palace of Warriors. Judiel explains that he was ordered to monitor Ryan's rapid martial growth, but his aura failures have dampened his interest. Karun has also lost interest in Sylvia. Curious, Judiel asks if Ryan is deliberately avoiding learning aura. Ryan throws the question back at her, letting her know it's not his place to ask. The truth, which Rot proudly reveals, is that Ryan is failing miserably at learning aura, and Rot mocks him by calling him pathetic. Ryan quietly goes off to train, and Rot teases him by calling him a monster. He then sees Lamar playing with birds. Ryan asks what he's doing in his backyard. Lamar replies, "I've come to give you specialized training on the elements." The next morning, Lamar takes Ryan to the mountain. Ryan protests that they were supposed to learn the elements. This place is useless. Lamar tells him to trust him. He recalls that when he inspected Ryan's cultivation technique, her aura was lava-like and on a different plane from other techniques. She wasn't erasing chill, but rather coasting with fire. If Rain can figure it out, it will be extraordinary. They arrive at a place that Rain finds to be in the middle of a forest. Lear releases a blinding spiritual force, and a razor-sharp wind is created. Lear explains that there are many types of wind: warm, cold, and sharp, and he chose a wind that can cut through anything. Now it's Rain's turn. He has to think about what kind of fire he wants, as his mana is the flame throne. Finally, Lamer takes him to a place he deems perfect. They arrive at the home of an elderly blacksmith who playfully teases Lamer. This is where the North's hottest and most sincere fires burn. The elder asks who he's brought. Lamer says Lord Sagat's grandson. The elder remains unimpressed. Rain is mesmerized by the furnace fire. It's the same flame he's known all his life. He's seen many forms of fire in his past lives. But the heat and intensity of this kiln is the image he's been searching for. The elder says in a rough tone, his name is Vikan. From Rain's old knowledge, Vikan is the continent's master blacksmith, renowned worldwide. Echoes throughout. It is said that he forged Glenn Segard's legendary sword, Heaven's Run-On. Our boy bows and introduces himself, expressing his respect at meeting the great Vulcan. Seeing his modesty, Vulcan wonders if Lair mentioned anything about it. Lair denies it and explains that Vulcan is Segard's retired master blacksmith, who has been feeding the Inflames for the past decade. This is the only place where Rain can truly feel the fire. When Lair requests permission, Vulcan suggests they go to the workshop. But Lamer protests, saying it would be dangerous to expose Rayon's cultivation technique to others until he masters it. Vikan asks why, and the answer is that Rayon is Sylvia's child. Hearing this, Vikan's concentration suddenly sharpens. Rayon solemnly vows not to interfere with his work and asks for a chance to feel the fire. After a moment of silence, Vikan explains that he is creating golden coal, which produces heat many times more powerful than white or black coal, and that this is why he has been working for decades. Stay here. Vikan gives permission, but on one condition. He doesn't interfere in his work. As they leave, Lamer expresses surprise that Vikan agreed so easily. When Elmer tempts him with high-quality liquor, Vikan clearly states that he didn't do this favor for Ryan. When the child enters, the kiln's flames suddenly become very hot, and the heat increases so intensely that the coal could be damaged. This is because the child's breath also has the power to ignite the fire, and Vikan thinks that perhaps he can fulfill his lifelong dream. Next 7. For months, Rayan regularly visited Vakan's kiln and meditated on the image of flames until he understood the kind of fire he desired. People say that fire is the most powerful and fearsome element, but the day it is controlled, it becomes the most stable. Yet, Rayan still hadn't awakened the energy of the golden flames art. He remembered Lamar's words, "Imagine the image of the fire you seek." Contemplating his goal of killing Darius and bringing Sylvia back to the main family, he realized he needed such a flame. He needs something that will light his path and never be extinguished. Suddenly, a bright flame erupts before him, and its energy begins to seep into his body. Rain increases his concentration and tries to capture the flame. Just then, wrath penetrates his mind, reminding him that this was his plan all along. Seizing his body at Rain's most vulnerable moment, Rain begins to freeze. The passage of time had made him forget the true nature of this demon. A breaking pain spreads through his body. He will die if he advances. He will die if he stops his cultivation. Now, he has only one option. Manifest his aura, or he will perish. The atmosphere is terrifying, and Night continues to taunt him, insisting that his efforts are futile. His consciousness begins to fade, and Night declares that his body and soul are now the property of the demon world. Then Night mentions Cole and Kalan, and gives Ryan a final warning. Ryan understands that he must absorb not the mana of nature, but Kalan's heat. The hotter the mana, the more diverging. As he does this, Kalan crackles and explodes.
Yes.
Vulcan is a stunt. The heat has never been this high. He sees that Rain is shivering, whereas in this much heat there should be no trace of cold. There is frost on his body as if some impossible forces are colliding. Vulcan thinks of touching him, but Lamar comes with lightning speed and stops him. Vulcan protests. He will die. Lamar replies, "If you touch him, he will immediately vomit blood and die. He is in a trance and we can't do anything." Both stand helplessly and watch. In the trance, Night is shouting at Rage that this is hopeless. Rain. He refuses. His past life was spent in darkness, deception, and fear. This time, his belief is simple. He won't die until he's made his own way. The heat intensifies, and it seems Lalon won't be able to bear it. All the mana begins to gather in one place. Lamer feels it. Rayon is absorbing all the mana. Finally, the tug of war ends. Rayon grabs Flame, and at that very moment, a blast of fire blows the roof off. Dust settles after the explosion. Both men call out his name in anxiety. There's no answer. Then the flames. Rain emerges from the center unharmed. Golden flames dance on his back. Flames like they've never seen before. The system screen pops up. Rain has acquired the golden flame art. 2 stars from the start, along with fire resistance. 2 strands of the curse of bitter frost melted, and his terrible stamina vanished. Not only that, he absorbed the chill of night and gained a new attribute. Chill of bitter frost, 2 stars. Night's interference actually became a blessing. The system also explains that due to intense mental force, all the stars are +3. Ryan is in shock. What would have happened years ago has happened today. Rot is furious and demands to know how he survived. Rot replies with a smug expression, "I told you before, you can't defeat me." The truth is, he almost died. Today's incident proves that no matter how friendly Rot appears, he's an enemy, and now Rot will never tell him his weaknesses. Wacken breathes a sigh of relief after seeing his condition. When he asks, "Did you find Aura?" Ron says, "Yes, and it's all because of you. The furnace exploded." Ron, he apologizes. But Vikanna says, "It's okay, you're alive, that's enough." Just then, Vikanna sees something strange in the flames. He takes the coal from the furnace and freezes in shock. It's golden coal, the same coal for which he'd spent his life. In the past, people had mocked him, saying creating mythical coal was madness. From that very furnace, the myth had emerged. Golden coal is hotter than white coal and more tenacious than black coal, and this is his miracle. Finally, he dedicated his life to creating what he'd spent decades creating. Vulcan got it because of rain. When Ron protested that he hadn't done anything, Vulcan explained that his mana cultivation had ignited a fire within Keelan. As he exhaled, flames blossomed, and heat spread throughout the workshop. Finally, the old man asked Rain what kind of warrior he wanted to be. Rain said he wanted to be steadfast, no matter who was in front of him or what situation he was in. His answer surprised Vulcan, especially since he was a child. So Vikan tells him that if he's really still as strong in 3 or 5 years, he should come see him when he can finally wield the sword. He was going to save the golden coals for the day when Ryan would come looking for him. Although Vikan had retired, he was still willing to make an exception for Ryan and intend to help him forge the sword. After a while, Ryan leaves the kiln and returns home, and Vikan hopes he doesn't die until their next meeting. Meanwhile, Lamer is overjoyed. It turns out that Rain has finally regained his aura. Just then, Master Sigard appears behind him, and Lamari taunts him, saying that he must be relieved of having to come every day and worry about his grandson. Naturally, Lord Sigard denies this outright. Lamari ignores his denial and explains that the size and purity of Rain's aura is no small feat. Perhaps this is because it absorbed all the heat from the kiln. Furthermore, the child immediately used his new aura, demonstrating its incredible potential. Runan had noticed something else. The yoga that Rain wore around his neck. He had completely embraced it. At the 5th training grounds, Runan was patiently waiting for Rain's return, a box of chocolates in her hand. Meanwhile, rumors were circulating that Rain hadn't been able to create an aura in 7 months, and that Lady Marcia should now inherit the top title because Rain wasn't as important as she once was. Runan didn't like all this and thought of a way to help him. She needed to help her mother. He also remembers the advice. He should return the favor to those he is grateful to. After a long wait, Ryan returns to the training ground after several months, still reeling from the previous night, wondering why he couldn't defeat him. To his surprise, the first person he meets is Runan, who gives him a box full of oob ice cream. She was worried that Ryan couldn't cultivate aura, so she encourages him to keep up. Ryan thanks her for the ice cream from the previous time. Just then, Runan smells a refreshing scent coming from her. She had noticed it before. Now the scent seems stronger and more pleasant, but she doesn't understand why. Ryan thanks her again for the ice cream, and Rot, overjoyed by its incredible taste, encourages her to immediately eat the remaining 2. But Rot doesn't like this, believing Runa is giving him a treat that is very precious to him. So, he scolds Rot for acting like a child, and instead of taking more, he simply closes the box. Seeing this, Runa, she is shocked because she expected him to take more. When she asks if he's feeling better, Ryan replies yes, which makes her blush. His answer makes her very happy, and she happily leaves. Kinsing thinks about how mysterious she seems sometimes. Marta rudely interrupts and asks what will happen to the friend who still hasn't made the aura and is completely left behind, namely Ryan. As the students start murmuring, Lamer calms them down, explaining that his friend, fortunately, has made the aura. He has already created it. Hearing this, Marta is deeply shocked. She wonders when he finally created aura. Despite her surprise, she retorts that it took him so long to create aura. She reminds him that when they first met, she clearly stated that she doesn't take orders from anyone weaker than her. According to her, She has shown considerable patience in allowing Ryan to wear a title he didn't deserve for so long. But that's all about to change, as she is determined to destroy him in spar. Warren! He extends his hand, creating a dividing line between Marta and R. He tells Marta to back off, saying that planning to spar after a month is dishonorable, especially since Ryan hasn't even received his aura for a full day. Marta mocks Warren's notion of honor, saying that honor is earned only by those who deserve it. She points out that another loser earned his aura in a month, but their valedictorian took over half a year. The murmuring resumes, and Marta says, 7 months is enough to develop an aura with a high-ranking technique. This proves that Ryan lacks talent. She tells everyone that a warrior who can't use an aura will never achieve fame, no matter how talented they are in swordsmanship. She even speculates that the instructor suggested the spar because the previous ranking was flawed and he wanted to establish a new one. However, Laird doesn't give a direct answer. For Marta, Ryan had long held the title of top trainee, even though his skills were at that level. She hadn't, and now it was time for her to step down. She continues, saying that the winner of Spark could take the top trainee position. But Ron rejects her offer. Ryan says that it's impossible to sit at the gambling table without money. So, why should she risk her position if she's not offering equal value? Instead of admitting defeat, Marta says that perhaps she thinks everyone here is on her level. Then Ryan asks her if she's scared. Her words infuriate him, and he tries to play her game. She decides to play the game because it will be the last game she gets to play. To get him into bed, she offers him the 9 Blossoms spill, a drink her father gave her. It's an aphrodisiac that enhances both physique and aura if Ryan wins. Her offer brings a smile to Ryan's face, and he reminds Brat that he said he would show him something more exciting by getting Marta to do something. A month later, sparring time arrives, and Marta is happy that she can finally return the favor. She had never been beaten by anyone before. In the same back alleys, when Ryan had hit her, it was the first time anyone had succeeded. After 8 months, she was getting a chance to avenge that humiliation, because Ryan had learned to use aura only 1 month ago. She was sure that sparring would be a walk in the park for her, as she had been using aura for 3 years. It was clear to her that Ryan had no potential, but still, she remembered that she had to make him strong quickly because someone had yet to be rescued. As she moved forward, certainty grows, knowing it's Rayon's end. On the day of the match, the other kids are asked to watch the fight to help them with their sparring and formulate their own strategies. Warren and Dorian are called first, but Dorian forfeits before the fight even begins, leaving Lamar stunned. Dorian pretends he's not feeling well. He's feeling very sick and hasn't slept all night. As always, the irritable Rahat says that if Dorian were his subordinate, he'd be on his feet. Lamar clearly sees that Dorian is making excuses. So he urges him to try, because even if he loses, he'll learn something. The sword fight quickly ends. Dorian falls to the ground and surrenders. Meanwhile, Lamar points out that Warren still can't control his emotions and that if he fought properly, he could have won the fight in 5 moves. Warren, meanwhile, vents his frustration on Dorian for running away throughout the fight and not fighting properly. After this, the next name is called Runan and Crane, the same Crane who had problems with Rayon earlier. As soon as the fight starts, Crane makes the first swift attack. Runan doesn't dodge him, but counters directly with his sword. Her counterattack is so accurate that Crane's sword flies out of his hand, startling him. Before the fight can escalate further, Lear stops the fight and gives his assessment. He says that Crane is too tense and needs more flexibility while holding his sword. Runan, on the other hand, the counterattack was quite good, but she didn't let her aura reach the end of the sword. The next pair is then called in, and the final pair is Ryan and Marta. The two fighters clash swords frantically on the field. In a calculated attack, Marta strikes Ryan's face, which he easily blocks with a counterattack. Playing on the offensive, she attacks again, but Ryan counters again, surprising her. After nearly being hit by one of her counterattacks, she She steps back and admits she didn't expect him to be able to counter every blow. She admits she has some swordsmanship skills. However, thanks to his weak aura, she activates her own and declares she'll show him his place. Once again, intent on the kill, she lunges at Ryan head-on, getting close enough to knock him out with one final blow. His body had already read her movements, so he quickly blocks the attack, as usual. However, this time, the force of the attack is much greater. He appears intense as he continually blocks her attacks. Marta taunts him, asking how long he can continue blocking, as using aura requires even more innate talent than swordsmanship. As the battle becomes fiercer, she reiterates that someone who can't even develop a small aura in 7 months can never become a warrior. When she tells him to give up before crushing her, Ryan goes on the offensive for the first time, forcing her to block his attack. His talent and family. Ryan's talk of talents begins to tire her, but she jokes that it's because she doesn't have any. Up until this point, Ryan hadn't used his aura, so she promises to show him his true talent. Instead, Ryan says he'll show her something more important than talent. Just then, a bright golden flame surrounds him, and he finally activates his aura. The sight leaves Mart stunned as Ryan activates the first flame of the million flame arts. Still, stunned, she wonders what these flames are and realizes that this fire is dangerous because it doesn't seem ordinary. To her, this fire is terrifyingly beautiful, but also clearly mysterious. Sweat breaks out on her forehead, and she grips her sword even tighter, unwilling to back down. Seeing the situation turning dire, she uses her trump card. Solid Stone stands focal point. Focal point is a special art that concentrates aura in one place, and Ryan understands that using this skill at such a young age is a risk. Hannah displays truly incredible talent. It's clear she's going to put everything into her next strike. Before the attack, Marta acknowledges her strength, but clearly states that despite having aura, he won't be able to withstand her next attack. She immediately charges towards her and swings her sword. But Ryan doesn't back down. When she's inches away, he blocks her attack with his sword. An explosive force is released that shatters the ground, shocking the surrounding students. The entire field is stunned. Smoke covers the students, obscuring their view. When the smoke clears, Marta is revealed lying on the broken ground, her sword broken, while Ryan stands over her. To the other students' shock, Ryan defeats Lady Marta. Their sudden use of her mysterious aura seems even more incomprehensible. Despite being unconscious, Marta's fists remain clenched. To Ryan, her mental fortitude seems more impressive than her skill and talent. Report to Lord Glenn that night. It is revealed that Rain crushed Mart with the aura she had been refining for 4 years. Lord Glenn confirms that the flames she saw the day Rain acquired the aura were beautiful, and their power far exceeded their size. It seems Sigurd's family has now learned of this, so Lord Limer asks him to guide Rain so he can move forward without becoming overconfident. He also inquires about Marta and learns that she has suffered a severe impact, but with some rest, her injuries will heal. The real problem is his psychological hobby, and they can only hope he can recover from it. Meanwhile, while Ryan is gardening, Wraith is his usual angry self and scolds him for not doing the job properly. He keeps threatening to turn him into an ice cycle if he doesn't do it properly. Ryan is not afraid of him at all and tells him to stop being tough. But Wraith says that his courage is only because he hides behind his water resistance, which has recently increased like a coward. In fact, the increased resistance was due to Ryan taking the 9-blossom pill with water the night he defeated Marta, which significantly enhanced his abilities. He had completed his 4th flame link, enhancing his body, rank, and soul, as well as strength, constitution, and dexterity. His entire athletic ability vanished. His previous mana affinity improved, and his water resistance increased. To be precise, the pill brought all his hard work to the surface. Many things had improved, but the one that stood out the most was water. Resistance had reached 4 stars. That's why he was able to dismiss most of Knight's rage as cute tantrums. Today was his last day off, so he came home to tend to the flowers and relax a bit. Even as he worked, Wrath constantly nagged him, telling him the correct way to thin the soil. When Knight complained that he should have sifted the soil with his hands instead of a spade so that the nutrient-rich dirt could reach the flowers, Rain wondered how he knew it so well. Actually, Demon World. In the night, he filled a flower bed with ice flowers, and the other demons praised him, and he never stopped repeating this. Suddenly, Marcia appears, and R asks her what she's doing there. Instead of answering, she looks him up and down, thinking how childish it is to garden, even though she knows he doesn't usually behave like someone his age. Then, suddenly, she announces that she wants to fight him again. Ryan thinks it's quite pathetic not to give up, but she protests, saying she's only come to find out where she stands. Concerned, he asks her what she'll get out of it, as the loser must bring something to challenge the winner. When she insists that a fight doesn't require payment, he declines her offer. This upsets him, as she was adamant about fighting him. He considers crushing her flowers to anger her, but soon realizes she doesn't have a particular fondness for flowers. She simply loves them for her mother. He was taking care of her, and this irritates her even more. Finally, she decides to leave. But then Sylvia comes out and greets Rain. She asks her who her new friend is. Pointing to Marta, Sylvia assumes Marta is probably Rain's new friend in training. But Marta recognizes her. She was the same woman who left home for love and then returned to save her child. Marta feels strange, but her courage to save her beloved child seems brave to her. Unfortunately, it seems Sylvia has seen Marta before, so she recognizes her and introduces herself. Ryan becomes tense about this conversation, makes it clear that they are not friends, and tries to stop her. Despite this, Sylvia goes to Marta and asks about her health after her fight with Ryan. Marta says she is fine, which relieves Sylvia. Sylvia explains that she heard that her older brother, Daniel, had adopted a talented child, and that the child seems to be as beautiful as he is talented. Marta is embarrassed by this sudden attention. Sylvia asks her why she's come to their house. Uncomfortable, Marta lies that she came to deliver a message and tries to leave. But little does she know she's about to get into big trouble when Sylvia grabs her hand and insists she have dinner with them. She says that Reyes's friend can't be allowed to leave without being shown hospitality. Despite her protests, Marta finds herself sitting at the dining table with Reyes and Sylvia. Reyes can't believe his eyes. He finds it hard because he never imagined the day would come when Marta would sit so obediently. Meanwhile, Sylvia tells her that Ryan loves meat tubes. Their conversation continues, and soon Sylvia learns that Marta is a year older than Ryan and is 15 years old. Sylvia gives her motherly affection and asks about her training. While Marta is eating, Sylvia tells her that the meat at their place is not as good as the main house and can be a little tough, so she lovingly pats her. She tells him to eat slowly to avoid stomach aches. Sylvia's words remind Marta of something her mother used to say to her when she was very young. After finishing her meal, she thanks Sylvia for the delicious food and leaves. Sylvia, happy that she enjoyed the meal, says she hopes she and Ryan remain good friends. Meanwhile, Ryan still can't understand why Marta is so quiet. Just moments before, she had come to blows with him, and he's certain she's had a fight. Killed. When Marta returns home, it's clear that Ryan must think she's gone crazy, but she acted that way because Sylvia reminded her of her mother, and she couldn't push her away. Eating with Sylvia reminded her of the days when she used to eat with her mother, when her mother was kidnapped by some thugs from the Witch Blood Church and later adopted by the Dyers. Marta had promised herself that she would never leave until she found her mother. She will lose. She had kept that promise all along, never losing a single fight until her loss to Rain. The Sigurds adopted her because of her potential, and if she continues to lose so badly, they might kick her out. Even though her father, Dyer, is a gentleman. Still, she wonders if this is all a facade and she will lose her last hope of finding her mother. Pain runs through her body at the thought that she should never have lost to Rain. As she enters, a worker named Camel greets her. She reveals that Lord Dyer has written a letter for her and was waiting to deliver it to her. Sweat breaks out on her forehead as she wonders if the letter is about the spar. Opening the letter, Dyer congratulates her on her first defeat and writes that one defeat doesn't make her a failure, so she needn't worry. He advises her to reflect on why she lost to Ryan so she can use it as fuel for her future growth. He also apologizes for not being able to speak to her in person because of his mission. It's dragged on for far too long. At the end, the letter states that the investigation into her birth mother's whereabouts is still ongoing, and Denai urges her not to give up. In response, Marta asks Camel to convey to her father that she is deeply grateful for his letter. As she goes inside, she thinks about the humiliating defeat she received from Ryan. As she cuts her hair, she decides not to ignore her defeat, but to move on because she can't shame her father. It's clear to her that if she ignores this, she'll be stuck here and never again be able to look her father, who trusts her so much, in the eye. She decides it's time to leave her pathetic past behind. Start from the basics again. Move forward and make herself stronger. The next day, at the training center, the students are shocked by Martia's sudden change in behavior. When she goes straight to Ryan and tells him that instead of offering a half-hearted apology, she'll live up to her own words. The loser must follow the winner's orders. She leaves Ryan stunned, as he didn't expect her to actually follow through on her words. Ryan thinks that maybe Martha has changed in such a short time, as she shows maturity beyond her years. But when he sees her kick Dorian out when he gets in the way, it becomes clear that her change is only for him, not for others. Soon, the new year arrives, and many things quietly begin to change. Against everyone's expectations, Martha continues to listen to Ryan. Warren tells the trainees, with more work and a level-headed approach, Runan's sword becomes sharper and more precise than ever. Meanwhile, Ryan continues to train as if his life depends on it. During a practice session, Ryan uses the new river walk technique so well that the students are astonished, having only learned it for a few hours. His speed so intriguingly impresses Limer that he is forced to report to Master Glenn. Limer believes that Ryan mastered the technique through visualization. Lee is quite unbelievable. Lord Glenn becomes irritated by Lear's constant ramblings and asks if he is his butler who talks only about rain at every meeting. Lear doesn't take this comment to heart, as he is sure that Lord Glenn is also interested in these stories. The frantic movements of many of the staff in the small mountain house are evident, which makes Learn believe they are preparing for something. Lord Glenn tells him that some invoices from the Kingdom of Oven are due in a few days, and that is what he needs to do. Preparations are underway. The Kingdom of Owen, a member of the Six Lords, is located in the center of the continent and is one of the few powers that maintains close ties with the Shadow Guards, who generally keep themselves isolated. It is a kingdom of knights that greatly values warriors and the sword arts. The envoy to come was supposedly represented by the third prince, but the actual visitor will be Duke Tartan, who identifies as a psycho. Lord Glenn instructs Lamrier to keep the trainees and all training grounds safe. They must maintain discipline, as the third prince will bring with him the Knights of Owen, who will want to observe the trainees and instructors. Shards must not appear disrespectful in any way during this situation. This piques Lear's curiosity, as the third prince of Owen is about Reen's age, and he thinks this could be quite an entertaining sight. Seeing Lear's strange expression, Lord Glenn worries that he is planning something, but he cannot quite understand. When Lear returns, he tells the trainees that he will be preparing for the next battle that very day. Sparring sessions will be held with the Knights of the Kingdom of Owen and the training ground in the presence of the third prince. The trainees are shaken by this sudden information, but Lemire reminds them that a warrior must always be ready to swing a sword, even if they have just gotten out of bed. As the students murmur among themselves, they discover that the Prince of Owen was supposed to be heading to the 6th training grounds. They wonder why this sudden change. In fact, Lemire had secretly met with the third prince some time ago. He had an unimpressive visit to the 6th training grounds, and Lamari had suggested he visit the 5th training ground if time allowed, promising to show him his true strength. It was clear that Lamari had deliberately informed him of the competition that day. Shortly after, Prince Owen and his knights enter the training ground. Third Prince Grai Du Owen introduces himself to the trainees. When Ryan sees Grai, he is struck by his strength beyond his age and his presence, which can be felt with just one glance. Much to his surprise, Limar, who clearly wants to pit Ryan against Greer, asks him if he'd be willing to spar with Prince. Meanwhile, Ryan thinks going up against Prince would be a good way to test his coordination of river walk technique and ignition sword arts. He immediately agrees, which pleases Limar, who sends Vance trainees, who is willing to fight on his behalf. Before the fight, Limar also tells the boys that he's betting his entire salary on them winning, so they either win or lose. But be prepared to die. The students panic, but eventually, under Ryan's leadership, they gather to fight. Before the fight begins, Ryan tells his teammates to pay attention to their opponent's trembling hands, revealing that even though they stand tall in their fancy uniforms, they are just as nervous. He reminds them that the intensity of their training is no less than that of the 6 lords and 5 demons, and that the blood and sweat they have shed in training must be theirs. It will be visible in the results. His words boost the team's confidence rapidly as he motivates them to fight with all their might and show their opponents what they can do, because Vanguard will be crucial in increasing the trainees' morale, and for that, a strong card is needed that can ensure victory. So Ron makes Marta the Vanguard. When the other team's Vanguard appears, the trainees start wondering if she's really their age because she has a very large body. Marta, on the other hand, stands up to her without any hesitation. The Vanguard in front introduces himself as Tar, saying that Marta has pushed her junior body to its limits and wishes her a good fight. Seeing the difference in their physiques, the other teammates wonder if Marta can really win against such a large opponent. But Marta, cocky as always, tells Tar to stop all this nonsense because she's going to win anyway. As the fight begins, Greer is amazed to see that Marta, despite her smaller frame, dominates Tar in terms of strength. It turns out that the warriors of the 5th training ground are extremely powerful as they march in a formation called the Sea Cart, and their strength can be considered comparable to that of the Knights of Kingdom Owen. Compared to the 6th training ground, which was quite disappointing, these trainees were showing real strength. Meanwhile, Duke Tartan asks Lamar if this was his intention when he suddenly arrived at His Highness's lodgings yesterday and invited him to the 5th training ground. Lamar replies that he did so because in the 6 kingdoms, the opportunity to safely face off against talented fighters from one of these countries is rare, and it's an educational opportunity for his trainees. When Duke Tartan calls it bull, Lamar suggests they have a little bet to see whose trainees will win in Dwi sparring, because betting is more fun than just watching. Duke Tartan tries to make him uncomfortable, explaining that his trainees are some of Owen's most promising knights in training. But Lamar adds that he trusts his own children too. During this time, Marta continues to unleash powerful strikes on her opponent, and the fight becomes extremely intense. When one of her strikes breaks Tar's sword, he is astonished by the strength of her attacks. But Marta continues to attack with a crazy smile on her face. Finally, she hits Tar's stomach with the tip of her sword, knocking him back, thus winning the match. Everyone around is stunned by the outcome of the fight, and R is surprised that Marta has improved her technique after their spar. Instead of making it graceful or fluid, she has strengthened her overall power by increasing her strength and speed. As usual, Marta taunts her opponent, calling his fighting pathetic because, despite his primary power being strength, he doesn't put full force into his strikes. While Ryan finds the fight quite entertaining, Rot calls it extremely boring, saying that the sparring between younger demons in Demon Rail was much more flawless. Before she can finish her sentence, Ron on the bracelet, he silences her with a blow so she doesn't spoil the fun. After a few spars, the 10th spar takes place between Runan and Aaliyah. As the two girls reach the fighting field, Aaliyah expresses her dismay at Runan's empty eyes. She quickly activates her fiery aura, while Runan activates her ice blue aura. The fight quickly becomes intense, and the sheer force of their collisions blankets the arena in smoke. Unbeknownst to Aaliyah, Runan has already arrived behind her and is quickly ready to attack her. As Alia turns to counterattack, Runan fades before her eyes. She wonders if it was just an illusion. Then Runan reappears behind her and puts his sword to her neck, catching her completely off guard. Because if this had been a real fight, Adelia could have been killed. So Runan is declared the winner of the 18th match. When Adelia tries to congratulate her on her victory, Runan ignores her and goes straight to Ryan and asks if he fought her. See? Ryan says he's gotten quite comfortable with the river walk technique and praises his fighting. At this point, Round's team has 9 wins, while Owen's team has 9 losses, which was quite a turn for Lamar's bat. The 19th spar is between Warren and an opponent named Saren Castle. Both men introduce themselves. Ryan notices that Saren is quite strong and appears to be the strongest knight he's seen so far, except for the prince. As the fight begins, the two run towards each other and try to strike. They do. Their swords clash, and Saren's power equals Warren's, making it dangerous for either of them to lose their guard even for a moment. Suddenly, their swords clash simultaneously, breaking both swords, and the fight ends in a tie. When Warren returns to his position, Ryan reassures him that he did well, especially against the other team's best trainee. But this brings Warren no solace, as he feels he should have won because he is the Sigart. It's happening. To cheer him up, Ryan puts a hand on his shoulder and tells him not to worry. He will win the final round and restore Sigurd's honor. Ryan and Prince Gry enter the fighting arena for the 20th round of the sparring session. As they emerge, Prince Gry is surprised to find Ryan's energy is more ordinary than he expected. Curious, Gry asks Ryan if he's from the main family, and when he learns he's from the branch family, he's furious that he's being pitted against a throwaway card. A fight is needed. Greer originally intended to fight either Runan, Warren, or Marcia to secure a legitimate opponent. He offers Lamar a rematch with either Marcia or Runan if he defeats his opponent. Excited, Lamar accepts. Just as a warning, Greer arrogantly suggests they warm up, as this fight won't last long and he needs to save energy to fight his real opponent. Greer decides to conserve his strength and use his strength against this opponent. He won't use aura. Meanwhile, Duke Tartan wonders what kind of monster Ryan is, as his presence is so hazy that he almost missed him. Lamar is surprised to notice this and wonders why he didn't warn Prince, who considers Ryan a throwaway card. Duke Tartan explains that he isn't warning him because, despite being Owen's future, Greer has never tasted defeat, so he should experience defeat in a safe environment. However, Prince Greer is quite strong, so Duke believes that even a prodigy like Ryan wouldn't be able to defeat him easily. But Lamar disagrees. To make his decision, Lamar suggests another bet, and it seems he's addicted to gambling. The bet is that Ron will finish Prince Greer within 5 moves. While they're discussing the situation in bed, Ryan activates his aura, leaving Prince Greer stunned. Even Duke turns around in shock. Lightning passes by the prince and delivers a staggering blow to his side, sending him plummeting to the ground. The fight is over in seconds, and it becomes clear that there was no need to bet on the 5 moves. The prince suddenly realizes that he misjudged Rain, and that's why he came out last, because he's the real powerhouse. Duke Tartan finds it hard to believe that Rain is just a trainee, as he has already mastered his steps and sword technique. Then Ares Rain turns away. He begins to leave. Prince Greer protests that he's still not finished. As Lamer tries to explain that the spar is over, Greer insists that he didn't use his full strength and that if he had known, he would have gone all in from the start. While he's speaking, Marcia calls him an effing loser because he's crying instead of admitting defeat. She adds that he reminds her of another loser, alluding to Warren. When Prince Greer recognizes her as a warrior who fought as vanguard, she tells him she can't help but be harsh, and that if he's not prepared to take the abuse, he should pack up and leave. Idalia is enraged by her words, asking him what audacity she has to speak to royalty like that. But Marta clearly states that she's a member of the main family and has nothing against her. Lear quickly calms everyone down and asks Ryan if he wants a rematch. Ryan replies that the outcome of the fight is already decided, especially when he's been placed on a wager and the fight is still ongoing. There's no point in holding on. Suddenly, Prince Greer admits defeat, especially because he failed to recognize Rain's ability and dismissed him before the match even began. Greer declares he's ashamed of his behavior and throws his sword to the ground, begging Rain to fight him again, saying he'll regret it for the rest of his life if he leaves. After pleading for a bit longer, Rain is taken aback by his humble attitude, having only thought of him as this arrogant prince. So he accepts his offer to fight again. They prepare for the fight again, and Greer clearly realizes that the reason for his previous defeat was his inability to recognize the powerful opponent standing in front of him. This time, he decides to go all in and unleashes a freak outburst on Aura. This outburst surprises even R. Even Marta is surprised, as she had no idea Greer had so much potential. He uses that stun on the Prince of Duke Tartan. Despite protests to stop him, Greer presses forward, determined to fight with all his might. At that moment, Rod arrives and taunts Ryan for failing to recognize that his opponent was concealing his strength. Meanwhile, Ron remains completely calm, confident that he can still win. When Rock calls it bull, a wager is set between the two. If Ryan defeats the third prince, whose aura is now much stronger and physique more developed, he will receive 4 points of the pledge. However, if he loses, he will. The knight's race will cost 10 points. Sparring soon begins, and Prince Greer launches his first attack. The attack is so fierce that the two fighters' swords and axes collide in a frenzied collision. The explosion from the collision is so powerful that it completely blinds the onlookers. The fight continues with great intensity, and Prince realizes that despite his full strength, Ryan isn't backing down. Finally, Greer decides to put all his energy into a decisive strike. He does this and starts drawing all his strength into his sword. Seeing the energy radiating from Greer, it's clear that this is his finishing move and he's going to put everything into his next strike. Out of his stubbornness, Ryan decides to return fire with fire. By now, he's memorized all of Prince Greer's moves. He decides to use the first technique of Million Flames arts, the spin step, which stuns Prince Greer. Seeing the fiery golden aura, Greer reacts quickly to avoid getting hit. Both fighters move towards each other, one with a fiery aura, the other with an ice-like force. As they reach the center of the arena, their swords and auras collide. Somehow, Greer manages to push back his opponent's aura, confident that he is stronger. Ryan, on the other hand, appears to be having some trouble this round. Despite this, he refuses to give up and retaliates with another powerful strike. This blow is so powerful that Greer's sword breaks on impact. To his dismay, his aura is also pushed back, and Ryan dashes back to attack him. But he lands his strike. Once again, Prince falls to his knees, and Ryan is declared the winner. Kneeling, Greer can't believe his eyes, confident in his strength and speed advantage. With a strange smile on his face, he realizes that Ryan possesses a step technique that allowed him to counter his aura. This defeat makes Prince Greer realize that the world is truly vast. He goes to Ryan and thanks him for teaching him so much from their second fight. He accepts his defeat this time. Ryan responds warmly, saying he too has learned a lot. Prince Greer apologizes for initially dismissing him. When he learns that Ryan is only 14 years old, he is amused that he lost to a swordsman much younger than him in both technique and attitude. Suddenly, Prince Greer hands Ryan the golden medallion hanging from his neck. Ryan hesitates to take it, but the prince insists, stating that it is proof that he is no match for any of his rivals. "I will fulfill the request, no matter what it is." Ryan wonders why the prince is giving him such a precious thing. Greer explains that this match cleared his mind and led him to a realization. It is a privilege for him to lose to such a swordsman. As he leaves, Prince Greer wishes Ryan good luck and tells him that he will enjoy working towards becoming as good as him. After accepting defeat, Greer reminds Lamar that he will receive the wager as per the agreed terms. Meanwhile, in Ryan's past life, He was expected to. He'd completed missions without receiving anything. So, receiving something like this was a bit unusual for him. It was clear that his new life wasn't going to be as he'd imagined. Later that day, Prince Greer shares the lessons he learned from the spar with Lord Glynn. He explains that he considered himself a pinnacle, but Rain changed that view because Rain was the epitome of a fully fledged warrior. Even though the prince had visited and sparred with 3 of the 6 lords, he had never seen a trainee of Rain's caliber, and he expected to be a better warrior than him. He learned a lot. In fact, he intends to immediately apply what he learned from the sparring upon returning to the kingdom of Owen. His words intrigue Lord Glynn, and he eventually asks him to inform the king of Owen that he has received the letter sent by him. Shortly thereafter, the prince and his envoy return to their kingdom. On the way, Duke Tartan mentions that Prince Grier used his hidden power, and that the Parissad art may have been too much for the situation, as it was a little hidden. It would have been better to keep the token. Strangely, the prince agrees. Taran also disagrees with the fact that he gave the token to Rain. But Prince Greer disagrees, especially because Rain had treated him with great respect despite being rudely dismissed, and such a gesture needed to be repaid. Pointing to Rain's performance, which was at the level of a special technique, the prince explains that his gift was actually a kind of investment. The surprised Duke asks him what he means by investment. The prince explains, if Rain can demonstrate this level of power and fortitude at such a young age, he will surely become a warrior known throughout the continent, even if he is from a branch family. From the prince's perspective, building a connection with such a person could be beneficial in the future. Duke Taran is astonished by the prince's ability to think so far ahead at such a young age. The prince replies that if he can't make such simple calculations even after spending so much time in the palace and learning from the king's wisdom, he doesn't deserve to live. Continuing, Prince Grier can't help but wonder how much Rain will have grown by the time they next meet. Meanwhile, in the main building, Lord Glenn's butler, Leon, remarks that the Lord seems pleased that a prince from another nation has acknowledged his grandson, but the master rebukes him, saying he's talking nonsense. Leon points to the warm smile that has appeared on his face for the first time since Prince Grier took Master Rain's name. Yet, the Lord says, he's told that Leon is old and seeing wrong. His reply makes Leon laugh, and to avoid further probing, he turns the conversation to a message brought by Duke Tartan. It's said that in addition to the letter delivered by Prince Grier, Duke Tartan had also previously brought an urgent message for the Northern Lord of Destruction. This message came directly from His Royal Highness, Lakos, Albert II, Owen II, King of Owen, and the Sod King of Silence, one of the 6 lords. Lord Lacker's message was that the 5 Umbers had begun their move. Sometime later, at the 5th training grounds, the trainees are praised for their excellent performance in the previous spar with the Knights of the Kingdom of Oven. Seeing their success, Lamer decides they are ready and announces that they will undergo special training next week. The students are eager to learn what this special training will entail. However, Lamer informs them in advance that it won't be as simple as just training, as they will be entering the field. It's said that during this field training, they will have to see blood. They will head to Snow Tiger Point, a bandit stronghold just beyond Sigurd's southern territory. These bandits are semi-affiliated with the North-South Alliance and subsist on the small tolls collected at mountain passes. However, their behavior has recently become increasingly overbearing. Reports of looting of merchants and casualties are increasing. When the students hear the reports, they assume their mission will be to clear the area of brigands. But they soon discover that their mission is much more than just that. It's much more intense. They're told that bandits attacked a village south of their hideout, massacred everyone there, set the entire village on fire, and escaped. Therefore, their new mission is to track down the Snow Tiger bandits and thoroughly annihilate them so they don't become complacent. Liar also adds that despite being bandits, they are quite famous as aura users. Lamar tells them to prepare, as they're leaving the next day. That evening, Runan's sword. She practices. She intended to refine her form a little before leaving, but it wasn't quite what she wanted. She remembered Ryan's stab, smooth and relaxed. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't replicate it. When she remembered that Ron would still be busy in the training room, she thought she could go and ask him. But instead, she decided not to bother him and continued trying alone. After practicing for a while, her movements became a little smoother. She stops there. Before going home, she decides to say goodbye to Ryan, as she's sure he'll still be practicing. Then she remembers that her mother told her to come home early this week because she'll have more ice cream ready. So she decides to go home early and ask Ryan her questions the next day. While returning home, someone approaches her from behind. Runyon is shocked to see the person she calls Syria, and she doesn't seem happy at all to see him after such a long time. The man's name is Syria. Slegern is of the vassal house. He notices her sour expression and jokingly asks why she looks so sad after seeing her older brother after so long. Has he hurt her feelings? When he repeats that he doesn't like her expression, Renan begins to tremble. Finally, he talks about her amazing strength. It turned out to be much better than he expected and also points out that Lair is quite decent at training. Sirius says that he is proud of her, but that doesn't mean she will go into the field or she'll risk her life in a spar. Her warm expression suddenly turns gloomy. Then he pushes her to the ground and jokes that she might have slipped. To teach her a lesson, he reminds her of a chipmunk she used to raise, Ruby. In reality, he takes out a chipmunk and reminds her how Ruby died and what happens if she goes against his orders. He crushes the chipmunk in his hands right in front of Renaan's eyes, and it leaves a deep impact on her. This horrific act brings back many terrifying memories for Renan. He brings her back, leaving her completely devastated. Syria takes advantage of her mental state and declares that she is his. He hints that she should avoid any dangerous or difficult tasks until he comes to pick her up and ensures that she remains alive until he decides otherwise. Memories of the dead chip mangex flash through Runan's mind, and she recalls how Syria used to taunt her with cruelty to animals even as a child. It was all happening again, and the disgusting feeling from her past made her scream. But she forces him to. Just as her older brother is enjoying her pain, there's a sudden explosion nearby, spreading smoke. This interruption distracts Syria, while Renan trembles with fear. A moment later, Ryan, sword in hand, stands between her and her brother. Shocked, Ron asks Syria who she is. Syria, unfazed, says it's more polite to introduce oneself before suddenly appearing and asking for someone's name. Ron clearly believes that Eli has. A person who stops someone shouldn't have such a right, and he thinks he might be a thief or a crocodile. This irritates Syria. He twitches for a moment and reveals that he's neither a robber nor a stranger, but Runan's older brother. Unsure about the situation, Ryan looks at Runan, but she's still trembling, and she can't believe that Syria could really be her older brother. Syria, on the other hand, claims it was just a joke because he was happy to see her after so long, and that's why he's acting like this. He reacts and says, I don't know that Runan saw his sick act of crushing a chipmunk in his hands, which he was calling a joke. Syria says it was just a toy. To prove his point, he shows his clean hands and says there's no blood on them. But Ryan understands that he flushed and burned away the blood with his aura. Syria explains that he's going on a long-term assignment and won't be back for a while. As he leaves, he places a dessert on the ground for Runan. He remarks that Runan had he's made a good friend and hopes their friendship will last a long time. After apologizing for his prank, he leaves, saying he'll see you later. Meanwhile, Ryan recognizes him from his past life. He's the swordsmanship prodigy of the Slytherin family and one of the 12 titans considered the pinnacle of the continent's next generation. He's known as Spear and Sod. In Ryan's past life, he'd only heard of him, but now, after meeting him, he realizes he's a psycho who pretends to be a benevolent hero. He acts. This experience makes him smell a foul odor reminiscent of Darius. Finally, our boy helps Runan up and promises to walk her to her carriage. After they reach the carriage, she thanks him, and he advises her not to stay up late because they are leaving the next day. That night, Runan opens the box her brother left for her. Inside is more ice cream. But the ice cream doesn't cheer her up, and she simply sobs, saying that her brother has returned and nothing else. It hadn't changed. Years ago, Ruby had hurt her stomach because she was sensitive during her babies. Runan had tried to reason with her, but Syria had become enraged. Despite her explanations, Syria had killed her stomach, saying it was his and she couldn't be hurt. He was so controlling that he wouldn't let her hurt herself, just breathe. He had even threatened to kill her if she told her parents, saying he didn't need a family and would burn them all in a fire. Just her. Except Runan always feared that if she opened her mouth, someone would surely get hurt, so she decided to live quietly. Everything was fine for her, as long as she remained quiet. Ultimately, this life forced her to live like a loner and suffer silently. But after getting to know Round Sigurd, she realized she wasn't alone. When she understood the kind of person he was, how hard he worked, how many hard times he had faced, and how he had changed the thinking of others through his pure effort, she felt she could change too. That's why she was trying her best to change along with him. But now she feels that she might not be able to do it. The next day, the trainees leave from the southernmost part of Seged village towards Zartan village. After exiting the portal, they soon reach a place where Lair tells them they will spend the night. It is said that they left the training center through the portal in a hurry, so everyone is advised to get plenty of sleep, as this will be their last rest before the mission begins. Shortly after, one of the locals escorts them to their lodgings. After settling in, Ryan thanks Rot for pointing out Syria's malevolent presence, as he wouldn't have noticed otherwise. Syria was deliberately concealing his presence. Rhett replies that it was nothing to the girl who gave them the orb ice cream, as Syria had said his mission was long-term. Clearly, he won't be back for a while. But the fact that he's Runan's older brother troubles Ryan, as Runan might never recover from this. Rhett solves this problem directly. The suggestion is that Ryan hand over his body so they can kill Syria and return it to him. However, Rot was really trying to repay Runan's favor by offering him more ice cream. Ryan still refuses to give up his body because Syria has deeply hurt Runan. Our boy understands that simply killing Syria won't be enough. Runan was the first person in both his lives who treated him genuinely with thought. That's why he's prepared to kill Syria himself if anything happens to her. Sigurd. The day after leaving the territory, the team arrives at the scene of the Snow Tiger Bandits' attack. The children are terrified by the charred bodies strewn everywhere, unable to fathom how someone could do such a thing to innocent people. The scene was horrific, and even the strongest of people, like Warren, are left in a state of shock. It's said the bandits slit the victims' throats and then burned them alive. However, Ryan notices that Marta doesn't react to the bodies like the others. Either she's seen too many dead bodies, or then he himself has killed someone. Suddenly, Ron realizes that Runan is nowhere to be seen. At the same time, she is standing in another part of the place, staring at a dead body, trying hard to hold back vomiting. Meanwhile, Lear gathers all the boys and reminds them that this was done by those who call themselves the Snow Tigers. He deliberately showed them this place so that they would not be put off when they come face to face. The children are also given a silent whistle that makes no sound when blown, but the instructors use it. They can detect and will rush to their aid in case of danger as soon as they hear a sound. They are reminded not to expect any mercy from the bandits and to try their best before relying on whistles. Runan trembles when Lemire announces that they must behead the bandits without hesitation as soon as the opportunity arises. Ryan is given the responsibility of forming groups. He puts Martia in charge of Group A, Warren of Group B, and each group is divided into about 3 or 4 people. Meanwhile, Runan, her brother's words keep echoing in her mind, telling her that she belongs to him and that she shouldn't do anything dangerous or get hurt. He's always threatened that anyone who dares hurt her will die by his hands. Her decision to go on this mission begins to tear her apart. Ryan comes to pull her out of her deep thoughts so they can form a group, and she reluctantly agrees. Ryan considers heading to the top of Mount Luton as it offers a clear view of the terrain below and makes retreat or hiding easier. It's an ideal hiding place for the banded ones, but he knows they won't be there because he wouldn't have chosen such an obvious location, especially when they're being hunted on a large scale. With that thought, the hills behind him ring. Instead of heading into the forest, he chooses the same place where he and Runan will go. Runan's repeated startling worries Ryan. Rot suggests he say something, but Ryan doesn't know what to say, especially since it's a family matter and he's still settling into his new life. He hasn't even fully grasped the feeling of being, let alone interfering in someone else's family. Still, he's determined to find an opportunity to resolve what Syria did to Runan, even if such an opportunity is difficult to come by. After climbing the hills, they discover another forest within the hills, invisible from the outside, exactly as Ryan had anticipated. It seems someone deliberately made it difficult to find signs of life there. If Ryan were new, this would be difficult to detect, but because he spent his entire life trying to convince people, he's been tracking. The banded one's trick doesn't work on him. This trick might work on hunters or armed trackers. But Ryan clearly senses that the snow tiger banded one's hideout is nearby. As they move forward, they see several traps and footprints leading deep into the hills. The banded ones thought that after clearing the outskirts, no one would come looking for them this deep. Their biggest mistake was underestimating the people they were sent to find them. The entrance to the hideout appears right in front of them. In front of the cave, the detained child poses as a hostage. He is accompanied by two strong guards. They both appear to be low-ranking because they don't appear to have aura, but they are accompanied by a stronger guard, and the remaining bandit are likely inside the cave. At this rate, there could be around 20 bandit in the cave. Ryan considers retreating and blowing the whistle to stage a surprise attack. However, the hostage child appears to be in very poor condition and appears to be dying of hypothermia. It is clear that he will not survive until reinforcements arrive, so Ryan decides to rescue the hostage. The best course of action is to escape and quietly eliminate the guards in front. When Renan hesitates, Rion tries to focus her attention and reassures her that they can save the child. But he needs her help. The plan is for her to silence the area with mana upon receiving the signal, and he will handle the rest. Runan still seems confused, wondering if she can truly transform, but she decides to try. They wait until the guards are tired and distracted. Then Rion gives the signal, and Runan steps forward and silences the area with mana. She silences him. The guards are confused as to who he is. Runan uses her aura dispersion, muffling all surrounding sound. The guards realize their voices aren't carrying far and wonder what an aura user is looking for in the hideout. Sensing an opportunity, Rain charges forward and attacks the two guards in front, killing them both with a single strike before the skilled swordsman can react. But he doesn't notice one thing. Runan still has a view of Gower. She can't bear it. The killing of the guards brings back memories of her brother brutally killing her pets as a child. Terrified, she screams, and the sound barrier breaks. Things take a turn for the worse, as the sound barrier has been broken. Ronan is frozen in fear, and they are about to be discovered. In a moment, Swordsman strikes Ronan on the head, thinking he is weak, and Ronan is left alone. Before he can reach Ronan, Ron reaches the man and throws him to the ground. He threatens to. He'll break a bone every time he speaks without being asked, demanding answers. Just then, Rain notices that the sound barrier has been re-erected. He looks at Renan, who is still trembling with fear. Yet, he feels proud that she persisted with the mission despite the crippling fear. When Renan frees the little boy, Rain confirms that they are indeed snow tiger bandits. He learns that there are about 89 of them, and that there are more scattered throughout the forest, just as he suspected. He also learns that there is a cave inside, and the hostage is Hawklet. The rescued child reveals that the other hostage in the cave is his younger sister and pleads with them to save her. Filled with compassion, Runan promises him that they will save his sister. But Runan doesn't find this promise wise, as they are clearly outnumbered. When Runan suggests calling for backup, Ryan agrees and blows the silent whistle. The lair's words prove true. The whistle is so silent that even Ryan can't hear it. But the problem is, someone inside the cave has made the sound, detected and alerted the others that the pursuers had arrived. Ryan is surprised that someone could pick up the sound so far inside when he couldn't even hear it from nearby. A short while later, several armed men emerge from the cave, wondering what such young children are searching for so far away. To stop the attack, our boy takes the man he was questioning hostage. The voice trackers, who appear to be their leader, ask Ryan who he summoned with the silent whistle. Ryan doesn't answer, but instead arranges for a hostage exchange. He demands it. He demands the little girl locked inside the cave in exchange. But the band leader laughs and says he doesn't care about the man they have because he's worthless. Unlike the hostage they have, he threatens that if he doesn't put down his sword, the little girl's head will be on the ground. Things get so bad that the kids are cornered. When Ryan realizes they're playing with him, he tells Ryan to turn around so he won't see what he's about to do and only move on his signal. Suddenly, he slits the throat of the man he was holding and his blood splatters on their faces. The men don't expect this sudden turn. Before they can react, Ryan throws his sword over them and sends it straight towards the man holding the little girl. The sword pierces his chest. At that very moment, our boy signals Renan to activate snow mist with his aura. Renan immediately creates mist, and an ice-like mist covers the entire area, obscuring everyone's vision. As the men dart around in the mist, they try to run and look for her. Ryan quickly finds the little girl and takes her to safety. A little while later, when the mist clears, the bandits realize that the children and the little girl are gone. The bandits panic and begin searching everywhere for the little girl, intent on killing her. Meanwhile, Ryan and Renan take the children to a safe place on another part of the mountain. The children soon faint due to the cold, making escape even more difficult. Furthermore, if they leave this place, there was a high chance the bandits would attack another settlement. So Ryan decided it would be better to deal with them here. He told Runan to stay behind and protect the children. But Runan noticed the blood on his hand. As always, he pretended to be macho and said he would return immediately. But then someone grabbed his clothes. It was Runan who pleaded with him not to go, as fighting while injured was dangerous. She requested they wait for the instructors, who were in Whistle. They must be on their way after hearing this. Ryan understands she's scared. He understands her fear, but explains that being so scared and unable to do anything is even worse. He reminds her of the terrible crime the Unmans committed and that they owe a debt to every victim in the village, to those who defended their homes and loved ones to the last. He also reminds her that there are still some people alive. They must be saved. He finally finds an opportunity to talk about her trauma related to her brother, admitting that he doesn't know exactly why. What her brother did to her. He explains that the more she fears him, the more this fear will grow, and if she keeps running, it will haunt her for the rest of her life. She listens quietly as he explains that only she can save herself and those she loves. Ryan tells her which direction she will take now is in her own hands, and he hands her something he took from his court. As she watches him walk toward the bandit hideout, tears well up in her eyes. He says, she thinks about the words. She truly wants to change and break free from this fear. She doesn't want to be trapped in her past any longer and wants to protect what's precious to her. She accepts that she can no longer live in this darkness. Through tears, she looks at the object in her hand. It's the toy Chip Munch gave her. It gives her the strength to move forward and step into the light. Moments later, a carnage begins inside Kev. Ryan cuts the bandits like onions. Their boss orders the others to quickly get the head. But he's killing them so fast that they can't understand how a little brat can do so much damage. When an ambitious man pounces on Ryan from behind, he quickly dodges. But taking advantage of the chaos, the boss delivers his finishing blow. The attack is so powerful that the ground on which Ryan stands crumbles. But to the boss's surprise, our boy disappears like Houdini. While he's looking around for him, Ryan appears behind him and asks what. He'll just be looking for opportunities to sneak up on him or even fight him face to face. With a single swing, the boss's head is severed from his body. The other bandits tremble in fear, unable to believe such a small boy could possess such terrifying strength. Ryan suggests they surrender, as their leader has now become a traitor. But then an attack from behind makes him realize that the person he just killed wasn't the leader. The real leader, Walken, appears and wonders why it's so difficult to deal with a small twerp. He taunts him, saying, "So mean. With their skills, will they ever be able to become part of the North-South Alliance?" Walken also mocks Rain's appearance and the classy air of his clothing, guessing that his family must be quite wealthy. He attacks, thinking that by taking children hostage, he will be able to extract many gifts from their families. This man proves to be much more powerful as his attack knocks Rain to the ground. It becomes clear that the true lord of the Snow Tiger Bandits is a true swordsman. Meanwhile, outside, a bandit man shouts that he has found the girl and the hostages. Still trembling, Runan tries to defend herself from Bandit. She's in no condition to fight, and Rain worries he'll have to go to her aid. Her distraction irritates Wakan, who says he's not going anywhere and will just play with her right here. It becomes clear Rain can't help Runan without dealing with Wakan. Outside, Bandit hurls abuse at Runan, especially because he can't use or understand aura. He insults him, saying it's clear he's never killed anyone. He threatens him, "Hand over the hostages and stop the drama." The man is serious in his threat and runs towards her, ready to shed blood. Runan understands that to save the children, she must fight the enemy in front of her. Fortunately, he is not a difficult opponent, so she convinces herself that she can cut him down. As she remembers Rain's words, the image of her older brother in the heat of battle suddenly appears and grips her again. The memory of her brother invades her mind. She knows she must get through this. But that day, fear haunts her. The memory makes her doubt whether she can truly be like Rain and protect those dear to her, especially when she can't even wield her sword properly in such a situation. A sharp fear grips her, and she wonders how someone who has never protected anyone can do anything. Just then, a loud voice calling her name pulls her back to her senses. She looks over her shoulder and sees Rain fighting Wakan. He looks at her and assures her that she can save them. From his words, from his eyes, tears flow, and the darkness in her mind is suddenly illuminated by Rain's confident voice. All this happens in an instant. She confidently turns back toward her attacker, who she sees moving at 0.5x speed. Gratitude wells up in her heart for the courage Rain has given her, and with that same courage, she cuts down the intrusive image of her older brother. At that very moment, Bandit lunges at her, and she rips open his stomach with a single blow. Deep inside, she remains eternally grateful to Rain for trusting her. Meanwhile, Vakan is astonished. His man was defeated so easily by a twerp. He complains that they're not even good fighters. When Runan is called a twerp, Rain becomes enraged and replies that Runan overcame his difficult past with his own hands, meaning his heart is stronger and purer than anyone's. He activates the Million Flames art and uses a technique called Flower Rain to cut him right through his ear. After disposing of the enemies, Rain decides to check the area for more traps before the instructors arrive. That's when he finds a rare elixir. They find a man called the Two-Tone Flower, for whom the bandits had massacred an entire village. Suddenly, someone appears from behind them and asks if the fight is over. This mysterious man seems to know about both the Two-Tone Flower and Wakan and laughingly asks Ryan if he's finished with everyone. This man is from the North-South Alliance and is called Lord Lecter, the Eternity Bandit. Clearly, Rayon doesn't trust him and asks him what his true motive is. Lecter laughs at his boldness and guesses that this boldness is his strength he must be coming from. Still skeptical, Rain asks him if he's from the North-South Alliance. Lecter confirms it. In Rain's past life, he'd heard of this Lecter, a genius swordsman who entered the North-South Alliance with just a sword and, in 10 years, became the leader of one of its major fortresses. Unlike these Snow Tiger Band-Aids, this man is a true warrior. Lecter quickly assesses the two and realizes that they are descendants of a famous house, and that one of them is directly related to one of the six lords. He also guesses that. He realizes they're from the Sea Guard house and recognizes they're trainees because they don't have the flame sword emblem. He begins to wonder what to do next, whether he should kill them both,